should really have been able to hold on and defend his position. He had a good buffer over Warren Barguil at the start of today. So here's confirmation. France getting that victory. A 1-2 for France as well, actually. Bardet and Pierre Roland at 33 seconds. A winner and a cone, the third at 59.
Trying to sort out the fucking bike.
Stage 19 of the Tour de France as the peloton prepares for another alpine battle. Chris Froome conceded yesterday that the climb of the Col de Glandon was tough. Could that slightest of concessions be the catalyst for a barrage of attacks from Nairo Quintana? Stage 19, and it's a short stage at 138 kilometres, but that will only increase the intensity. The Category 1 climb straight out of the start at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, a little bit of respite through the Valley Road and the intermediate sprint. It's then on to the Col de Croix-de-Fer, quickly followed by the Col de Mollard, and then to the finish line at La Toussière. The Vultures glide over the top as they also glide behind Chris Froome, aiming to take away that 3-minute and 10-second advantage. The leaders of the various classifications, as is the tradition, they stand at the start, at the front of the peloton, ready to roll out. We're just about set for the flag to drop. There'll be 5 minutes in the neutral zone before the second flag then comes in from the lead car, driven by the race director, Christian Prudhomme. And that's when the racing will really commence. An enormous amount of support for Peter Sagan in the green jersey, likewise the white jersey for Nairo Quintana. The Colombians have come in huge numbers to this year's Tour de France, and Quintana is giving them hope that just perhaps he might become the first Colombian to win the race. He's one of just 2 Colombians to have finished in the top 3 of the Tour de France. Fabio Parra, great Colombian climber from the 80s, the other man to do so back in 1988. For Nairo Quintana, he was second behind Chris Froome in 2013. Rodriguez, he's clearly made the King of the Mountains jersey his objective. Yesterday, he faded on the climb of the Col de Glandon. He said he simply forgot to eat. Not the sort of thing you expect from a man of such experience, 36 years of age. The final 10-second countdown. They roll out the neutral zone, stage 19. The second last big battle. It's Alpe d'Huez tomorrow, it's La Toussière today. And whatever the conversation was between Sagan and Rodriguez, it brought a smile to the face of the race leader. Chris Froome looks relaxed, and well he might. 161 riders remaining in the race. We had a couple of abandonments yesterday, Mark Renshaw amongst them. This compares to last year. Last year at the finish in Paris, there was 164 riders. So we're already below the mark from 2014, and we've still got 2 very tough days to come. Michele Scarponi just sneaking through the picture from Astana. I wonder what we'll see from Vincenzo Nibali today. And immediately we're seeing the peloton split up under the pressure. Not surprising, there is a lot of pressure on. At this point, probably worth mentioning the tweet from Thomas de Gent this morning. Who is interested for the Gruppetto today? Contact Marcel Seberg for tickets. You can also have a group discount. So he made it pretty clear how the day is probably going to unfold for him. Arnaud Demar at the back, the French sprinter from FDJ. Meanwhile, his teammate, Alexander Geniez, is pressing away at the front for FDJ. Had a good Giro d'Italia this year, Geniez, finishing inside the top 10. Big reaction now coming. Sitting in 3rd position, the man who started it all, Brice Filou. Looked as if Alejandro Valverde was also trying to sneak into the action. Do enjoy these shorter stages. Means it is full gas from start to finish. Life at the back, and it's not comfortable. Arnaud Demar, former under-23 world champion. That was in Denmark that he won that title. The same year that Mark Cavendish won the elite title. Rodriguez goes and Mahawi responds again. The rider sitting in second position, Mahawi Kudos, when he went to the UCI Cycling Centre, their World Cycling Centre in Switzerland, which is where Chris Froome came through when he was registered as a Kenyan cyclist. All the data coming out on Kudos is that this guy is a potential top 5 finisher at the Tour de France. Let's hope he fulfills that potential. This is the race for the King of the Mountains jersey. Points are up for grabs, a Category 1 climb. As Jean-Christophe Perrault, extraordinary. He is bouncing back and he returns. He no longer looks mummified. He's still got a lot of bandages on, but he continues to fight on bravely. 32 degrees. It is hot at the start. It's warm at the finish. Fairloop paying the price. This is Louis Vestre going through for Astana. Genya's next in line for FDJ. Looks like it could be Platzer once again for the Lamprey team. Not the normal terrain for Louis Vestre, although he has been on the podium at Paris-Nice. He finished in second place in 2012 when Bradley Wiggins took the title. Cannot praise the man sitting in second position enough. Always easy to spot the peloton because he's got one red shoe, one blue shoe. But this is Jean-Christophe Perrault, second overall last year. On the stage to Rodez, it looked as if he was going to be on his way home. And a couple of days ago, he even said then, I'm not sure why I'm continuing. The suffering is just too much. Every bump hurts. I can feel it rattling through my body. Well, this is why Jean-Christophe Perrault has continued to show himself at the front once again. He has said that this may well be his last ever Tour de France. Also trying to poke his way into the picture. Christian Corrin, the rider from the Cannondale team, as we saw yesterday, had 3 riders in the breakaway: Talansky, Hagedal and Dan Martin. Andrew Talansky yesterday in 9th position, the day before he finished in 2nd place. And as always with the football, he has declared he will continue to fight. AG2R Le Mondial, they've been the only French team, or the only team with French riders to win stages this year. As they've had stage wins with Villemos and yesterday with Bardet, they've now got Perrault on the charge and joined by Christophe Riblon. Christophe Riblon now trying to come across as well. This is Bruce Fielder, the man who started it. The reaction in the green colours, that's Dan Martin. Emmanuel Buchmann, the German national champion, trying to go across. Movistar also infiltrating the early breakaways. It's Mallory is the rider of the Movistar colours, the Italian individual time trial champion. So he's got plenty of horsepower. Has he got the climbing legs? Such an aggressive start to the stage as we expected. Another short stage tomorrow, so we can anticipate equal sort of aggression at the start of the stage. Mallory wearing the yellow helmet for Movistar. They are the leaders of the team's classification. It's not the team's classification that they want. They've got a 36-minute advantage over MTM Quebecer, who sit in 2nd position. But Movistar, they don't want a yellow helmet. They want a yellow jersey for Nairo Quintana. Buchmann on debut, the young German national champion. The Col de Chaussy is their first climb of today, but this was the final climb of yesterday. Wasn't it stunning? Montvernier, introduced to the Tour de France yesterday, and it won't be the last time. It's the kind of climb that the weekend warrior dreams about. You just want to do it on your own. You don't want to do it under race circumstances. But what a beautiful climb it was. Michael Rogers now for Tinkoff Saxo. Alberto Contador wants to go out with a bang.
Now, this used to be one of my favourite routes.
Contador himself has said that it would take a
Well, I
big
haven't
mistake
actually
from
been here
Alejandro Valverde for
for
Contador to stand a chance to move up
years,
to third
18
place
months
overall.
maybe.
As the gap between those two riders is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Contador, I suggest that this move is a result of him wanting to look for a stage victory. So he's putting Michael Rogers into the early move. Dan Martin tacks on at the back. Here comes the peloton. Richie Port at the front, the black colours of Team Sky. Talansky once again. This is Talansky now. And Volker Mollema is the rider from Trek Factory Racing. Volker Mollema had a tough day yesterday. Dutchman, team leader for Trek Factory Racing. He sits in 9th position overall, 12 minutes and 6 seconds behind.
The big buds.
Carrara is here for
20
Movistar.
minutes or so.
Difficult to get
Below my
organised.
PB.
Rodriguez with a teammate, which is good news for him. So he will go to the front and start to up the tempo. Talansky and Ports, they get along together pretty well actually, Richie Port and Andrew Talansky. They locked horns at Paris-Nice 2 years ago when Richie Port went out the winner. It's a great deal of respect between the two of them, but both of them are those kind of guys that don't take a backward step. Like the two animals on the coat of arms for Australia, the emu and the kangaroo. There's no going backwards, it's only forwards with these two guys. Cyril Gauthier attacks now for Europe car. The man behind him is Pierre Roland. Second on the stage yesterday, Pierre Roland. When the race came to La Poussière in 2012, it was Roland who won the stage from a breakaway. He did a great job yesterday, Cyril Gauthier, in support of Pierre Roland. And Roland is also on target perhaps to claw his way inside the top 10 if things work out well. He's currently in 13th position overall. Lasada now at the front for Katusha. And in fact, the rider from the Kendall Garmin team is Dylan Van Baal, which has come as a surprise to me. I jumped the gun and declared that it was Christian Corrin. It's not, it's Van Baal, the Dutchman, a specialist for the flatlands. Talansky now finds a little bit of freedom. He's opened up the slightest of gaps. This is Scarponi from Astana. Port now marking the moves heavily. Brilliant racing. Pierre Roland trying to put the disappointment of yesterday's second place finish behind him. In fact, he said it's more than disappointing. And he declared he made the wrong decision with his tactics. And Daniel Tekla-Hamanot now trying. We've seen a bit of Mahawi Kudos early in the stage. It's now the taller of the two Eritreans that is moving off the front. What an occasion for African cycling. What an occasion for the Eritreans. For the first time, Eritrea with starters at the Tour de France. Two of them, Tekla-Hamanot and Kudos, and they've both had an impact on the race. It's been a joy to watch. Lasada at the front, with former teammate Platzer also in there for Lamprey. This is Talansky. Andrew Talansky, after yesterday's stage, with the emotions raw, he said, we're not racing to defend 12, 13, 15th or even 11th. Top 10, well, I was aiming for top 5. Here to try and win a stage. And win a stage is exactly what he is now trying to do. He's had a second place finish. He was in the breakaway yesterday, finished in 9th spot on the stage. Incidentally, Andrew Talansky sits in 12th position overall at 15 minutes and 18 seconds behind. So there are 15 riders up the road. 35 seconds is the gap from the Team Sky-led peloton with Richie Port on the front through to the leading group of 10 with then 5 chasers. for riders for the yellow jersey Chris Froome to be concerned about. There's no real threats. The best placed rider overall who is going forward of the peloton is Andrew Talansky, who's in the second group. He's in 12th position at 15 minutes and 18 seconds down. This group is now being declared as a Rodriguez group, and understandably so. Peter Sagan. Caught and passed. This is Talansky, Tekla Hamanots,
biggest clams on the
Scarponi, Roland, Gutier, the two riders in the dark green colours from Europcar. And the Cofidis colours under a fair bit of pressure. You can see the rattling and rolling. That was Danny Navarro.
Yeah.
Danny Navarro is a good climber. Stage winner last year at the Tour of Spain. Former chief lieutenant for Alberto Contador.
It's about 800 metres.
Good to see number 188 in
more
the move. This is
climbing.
Pantano, Colombian
But
climber
it's
from
also
IM
split in the
Cycling.
middle by a long descent.
3 stage wins for number 75. He's fourth, perhaps comes in Paris, but he's got a big task ahead of him before he gets there, and that is the task of surviving these mountains. Sebastian Chavanel was the rider behind him, the brother of Sylvain Chavanel, part of the big lead-out train for Arnaud Demar at this year's Tour de France,
1800
the
metres
sprinter on the FDJ team.
of almost continuous climbing.
And 26 riders have broken away clear of the peloton.
Obviously,
42
with a
seconds
variable
to gap.
gradient, as you can see on the route profile, the bottom.
2 riders in that leading group from Astana, Scarponi and Westra. Great to see Jean-Christophe Perrault in the move.
But it's still a long way up.
Herrard is up the road for Movistar, and the man in the white jersey, Nano Quintana, has declared he is going to attack. He is true to his word. And 3 riders in the group from Europcar. In addition to Gutier and Pierre Roland, who we've seen a bit of, the official race radio is announcing that Roman Seca is also in there. Number 71, the team leader for Lotto Soudal, that is Tony Galopin. Rodriguez is assessing the situation, doing a roll call. The group's too big, Kruijswijk doesn't like it, he goes forward on his own. Good climber, Steven Kruijswijk. Being put in a solid performance, the Lotto NL Jumbo squad.
Line on Ready Floor from the back of the packing race, direction number 2. It was expected, a lot of has have been dropped as soon as the first kilometre over this stage. Riders like Arnaud Demar or Tyler Farrar, and they will certainly struggle. It's going to be really tough to finish on time on this stage and remain on the Tour de France. Only 138 kilometres of riding, and it shall be a battle all the way to the finish line for the sprinters of the Tour de France.
Fort, Thomas, Roach. Next in line is Leo Koenig, followed by Luke Rowe. The tactic you would suggest for Team Sky at this point, given the composition of the breakaway, will be just to let them go up the road a little bit, keep as many of their riders intact as possible over the top of this climb, because then they head through the valley, the intermediate sprint, and they want to save their main climbers through that period and let Luke Rowe, for example, do the work throughout the valley road. And then it's onto the Col de Glandon into the Col de Croix de Fer, which is when Koenig, Wout Poels and Port will take over. Rodriguez with 2 teammates joining him in the breakaway. This is Caruso now, who's at the front, one of the Italians on the Russian squad. Roman Seca it is, who sits in second position from the Europcar team. Rogers. Not exactly camouflage, is it? The colours of Tinkoff Saxo this year, despite the fact they declared it camouflage. This is Steve Cummings, followed by Rigoberto Urán. Peric Kimener is the next rider to try and go across from Europcar. And this is catching the attention of Team Sky ever so slightly. They don't want to let too many riders go forward, particularly riders from Movistar. Well, the weather has played a role in this year's tour, mainly through the heat as opposed to the rain. The biggest impact the rain has had was really on stage 2 to Zayla, which seems like such a long time ago. It was Andre Greipel who won the stage then, and Fabian Cancellara moved into yellow as Tony Martin just missed out.
Okay, first climb, 750 metres to go.
The leaders slowly starting to build up their advantage. And it looks miserable at this point. Kruijswijk now going through to the front. They made a lot of sacrifices yesterday, the Lotto NL Jumbo team, to support Robert Hessink in his bid for a top 10 finish overall, in fact a top 5 finish overall. And he's within striking distance of the top 5, Robert Hessink. Today though, they have put a rider in the break. The main rider for them that's been flying the flag in the breakaway so far has been Wilco Kelderman. Today, it's Kruijswijk. He's strong-willed, Steven Kruijswijk. He was prepared to go toe-to-toe in the media with Fabian Cancellara at the Tour de Suisse 3 years ago when he was only a second-year professional. So against Fabian Cancellara, Spartacus, the man with a reputation of being very strong-willed himself in his home tour, and Kruijswijk took him on. Extraordinary weather conditions. It is warm here at the finish line. Most of the spectators are in shorts, t-shirts, and many of them in singlets trying to stay cool. Cloud cover though, it is starting to roll in here at La Toussière. Dylan van Baarle sitting in second spot. A young Dutchman on debut at the Tour de France. Michael Rogers behind him. And seeing Michael Rogers in this breakaway, it's a clear message that Alberto Contador is not going to go away quietly. He has said that in order for Valverde not to finish on the podium, it would take a big mistake. Did say that Alberto Contador wouldn't go away quietly. Well, he is now going on the charge. Port responds. They are former teammates. There's not a lot of love lost between the two of them either, I might add. In 2013, when Chris Froome won the Tour for the first time, Richie Porte was seen at one point along the road having a conversation with Rodriguez and Valverde, indicating that he thought perhaps Alberto was vulnerable, so there could be a chance for those guys on the podium. And it is an abrupt reaction from Richie Porte, and it's not necessary really, you would suspect, given where Alberto Contador sits overall at 6 minutes and 40 seconds behind. But he has caught the attention of Alejandro Valverde, and this is dangerous. Valverde does need to be contained. Well, Alejandro Valverde at 4 minutes and 9 seconds behind Chris Froome. Overnight, Chris Froome has said he only needs to watch 2 riders, Valverde and Quintana. No matter what you say about Alberto Contador, he delivers entertainments. He can be the hero and the villain all in one. Gerrit Thomas is now coming across from Team Sky. Tactically, this is good by Team Sky. This is Christophe Riblon from the earlier breakaway now being caught. Short stages, 138 kilometre stage. They are much better to watch as pure entertainment, the long drawn-out arm wrestle of a 200 kilometre stage through the mountains. Riblon, he's won at Alpe d'Huez. We head there tomorrow. And Gerrit Thomas has brought it all under control. Alejandro Valverde, he looked a little vulnerable yesterday. This is Wilco Kelderman. He's had a tough tour, Wilco Kelderman. He crashed on the opening day in Utrecht of all places, racing on home soil. Warren Barguil is the next to go. Here goes the young Frenchman from Brittany, racing for a top 10 finish, and the man that responds is Bauke Mollema, who's in 9th position overall. They played a game of tactics, those two men yesterday. Robert Hessink now comes through. 6th position in the general classification. Valverde into the slipstream. Barguil on debut at the Tour. He's been a top 10 finisher at the Volta a España. A stage winner there as well. Here comes Mollema. And Hessink, 2 Dutchmen. They're racing for a couple of prizes. Bragging rights at least, as who can be the best placed Dutchman overall. Mollema yesterday played the game of the yo-yo, and Barguil after the stage said that he was playing with him a little bit because he knew that it was Mollema and Bardet further up the road that he had to race with for a spot inside the top 10. As now the defending champion, he's not defending his title any longer. He's now racing for pride. And Vincenzo Nibali, 7th position overall, 8 minutes and 4 seconds behind. And if the rain is going to please anybody, it is Vincenzo Nibali. Because Vincenzo Nibali, in the rain on the descents, his bike handling skills are an even bigger advantage. But for all that's been discussed in the past about Chris Froome and his bike handling perhaps being his Achilles heel, I think it's fair to say that at this year's Tour de France, he has put that firmly to rest. On the stage across the Pavé, it was Froome right at the front, attacking just as much as Vincenzo Nibali. And then on that stage to Prelude with that treacherous final descent, well, he marked Vincenzo Nibali all the way down and had no problems whatsoever. The Spanish connection, Contador and Valverde. And a long day of containment for Team Sky. They've got a little bit of time to play with. More than 6 minutes to Contador, just over 4 minutes to Valverde. Well, some people were suggesting that perhaps Movistar today would be a little defensive because of what's at stake with potentially 2 spots on the podium. There are big bonuses for finishing on the podium in the Tour de France, as much as from 200,000 euros up to 500,000 euros. And at the moment, Alejandro Valverde holds down 3rd position. So do they risk Alejandro Valverde in 3rd place personally, the riders within the team, and sharing in those bonuses in pursuit of the yellow jersey Fernando Quintana? Looks like they will. This is Scarponi, Nibali, Gutierrez. So the Italian national champion has made it across to the front, but the gap is only 15 seconds. Kruijswijk, here the broad shoulders from Lotto and El Jumbo. Fernando Quintana, he's made it pretty clear, he feels good and he's still got the will to win. In fact, he has an enormous desire to win. Now the words of the Colombian climber. Says having Alejandro Valverde close by is crucial to his ambitions. Herrera is in this group from Movistar. There he is just on the right-hand side of the screen. Sitting on the wheel of Steven Kruijswijk. This is Scarponi at the front, the former winner of the Giro d'Italia. A good man to have for Vincenzo Nibali. It looks like Team Sky about to reel this large group back in, still consisting of 25 riders. Sagan suffering through the mountains. He's got 15 second place finishes on stages at the Tour de France. That's throughout his career, 5 of them this year. Simon Yates at the back of that little group, losing contact. That was Jose Serpa from the Lamprey squad as we work our way through to cross off the riders who have been dropped. This is Anacona, who was 3rd on the stage yesterday. The South African national champion also losing contact, Van Rensburg. This is Fulsang, the Luxembourger, who was in that move yesterday, finishing in 4th place. Now going off the back is Izaguirre from Movistar. Swiss national champion. Marcel Wies from BMC, also losing ground. This group now going into survival mode. Number 73, Thomas de Gens. He was the one who announced this morning that Marcel Seeberg is selling tickets for the Gruppetto. Danielos and Caruso, the two Italians from BMC. And the big figure of Navadauskas. This is Castrovejo. Adam Yates. We've already seen Simon. So the twins will get themselves together shortly. Christophe Riblon, who was in the first move of the day. But number 66 is bigger news. This is Samuel Sanchez. Starting the day in 15th position overall. He has been a winner of the King of the Mountains classification here in the past and a podium finisher overall. A third place finish for Sanchez a few years ago. Scarponi and Nibali, Astana. Strong words from Alexander Vinokurov a week ago for Vincenzo Nibali. The Italian saying that Vino just wants to motivate him. They're trying to smooth over the waters, in public at least. I wonder what it's like behind closed doors. I'm not sure it's quite so harmonious. I'll see if we can peer back down the road and get a glimpse of the Sky Squad leading the peloton. There's no longer any official time check coming through on the official race computer. Well, here we go, we can see for ourselves. Froome still with three teammates perched in front of him. Not much left of what was considered to be the main peloton. Talansky, Valverde, Pierre Roland knows the roads well. He won here in 2012. And it was on this stage at La Toussière where Chris Froome attacked the yellow jersey of his teammate Bradley Wiggins. Sean Yates got on race radio pretty quickly to call him back. Steve Cummings, the rider with the jersey completely unzipped from NTM Quebecer, creating history for the South African team on the Stage du Monde. And this looks like, well, Paul's the Dutchman at the front for Team Sky. Richie Porte appears to have lost contact. Richie Porte has said that he's not in the condition that he was at the start of the Giro d'Italia, which was his big target for this season. He was the #1 man.
What a start to the race. Bear in mind that so far we've covered the massive distance of 24 kilometres. That means we're still looking at 120 kilometres to go to the finish. There's a lot of racing left and a lot of climbing left on today's stage. Looks like Roman Kreuziger. Now Froome has decided he's going to the front. He is a pretty good bike handler. A lot of people criticise his bike handling ability because he looks a bit gangly on the machine, but really he's got a great background. He's ridden plenty of mountain bike races. He's ridden some cyclocross, and he's come up to that group very, very quickly. I think this is he's just seen the move, and this is Bardet now. Bardet, the winner of yesterday's stage, he is a good descender. He's seen this as an opportunity and he's responding. Now, Rigoberto Urán, he was third on the stage up to Pralou a couple of days ago, and Romain Bardet has seen this as an opportunity, but once they get down this descent, they've got quite a bit of flat.
Well, they continue to take great caution at coming down the mountains, and I don't blame them. This road is wet. It's drying out a bit now.
They did take caution just for a little while, but now all of a sudden Rigoberto Urán, the Colombian rider on Ethics Quickstep, he said he's enjoying this. He likes the conditions. He's going to see if he can open up a gap before we get to the bottom of the climb. And the rider who won the stage yesterday for France, Romain Bardet, he's also gone out on the attack.
Yes, well, he is proving to be an ace descender here. This is at the front is Rigoberto Urán. Yesterday's winner is coming across, and apparently, Paul, you told me that Bardet has been practicing cornering on the Silverstone motor racing circuit in the UK.
Just learning how to handle the corners, to line himself up for the corners, and I think we've seen that is working out fairly well for him. And I think he was taking a page out of the book of Thibaut Pinot, who actually moved on the Paul Ricard motor racing circuit in the southern part of France, just to know how to line up, how to control yourself going around the corners. And I don't think Rigoberto Urán has been on either of those racing circuits, but he's going around these corners without very much fear at all.
Well, after yesterday's efforts, Bardet has become the best French rider in the Tour de France, sitting in 10th place now, but only 16 seconds ahead of Warren Barguil, who's currently trying to rejoin the peloton with Geraint Thomas.
Well, you might just spot on the back of Roman Bardet there, Phil. He's got the red numbers on, not a surprise. He was the most aggressive rider of yesterday's stage, and the French were very, very happy with his performance, and the French finished in first and second place. Pierre Roland was the second place rider.
As we continue to wind our way down here, this is the chateau of Our Lady of Beaurepaire. And it was supposedly built by the will of the Virgin. The materials said to have appeared on site of their own accord.
Originally built in 1862, but the oratory was rebuilt in 1760 with the addition of a few extra meters to make it look rather beautiful as it is. Inside there is a deception and a trick of the eye deception in the
This is
stained glass
Geraint
windows.
Thomas, sorry Paul, this is Geraint Thomas here, who just qualified Barguil, and Dylan Van Baal has just got on after his little ride through the grass. It looks as though they're still chasing, though they haven't got on yet.
Not quite, but they're still looking at around 20-30 seconds off the back of the yellow jersey group, who have obviously slowed down a fraction and giving Roman Bardet another day of aggression. He really endeared himself to the French crowds yesterday, coming across Rigoberto Urán. He's the man who really started the attack. They're coming away from where the cloudburst happened a few moments ago, and as they get down into the valley, well, the road surfaces now are dry. Yeah, but once they drop down into the valley here and get themselves away from this first climb of the day, they'll go into the little town of La Chambre, or the Room. And that's where they'll then line up for about 30 kilometers of flat along the valley. They'll go through the sprint point in Épierre, through to Saint-Remy-en-Maurienne, and then into Saint-Étienne-de-Quine, and that's where they will then start the next climb, the big climb of the day, the 22.4 kilometer climb of the Col de la Croix de Fer, which is in fact the longest climb of the Tour de France at 22.4 kilometers. So there's the yellow jersey, just looking a little bit further back. Walter Puls is in that group. Joachim Rodriguez, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. And there is Geraint Thomas just getting onto the back of this group with Warren Barguil. I think he can now breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. All, I think, Phil, caught out by the severity of the attacks right from the word go.
Well, he's got about 30 kilometers to recover right now, because that's when we start the climb of the Col de la Croix de Fer. Leopold Koenig also here as he continues. Still a bit of racing to go for him, but they might recover this one. Very lucky they've got this valley road before we start the whole climbing for the day.
Yeah, 30 kilometers of valley road, Phil, once they go through La Chambre till they get to Saint-Étienne-de-Quine, and that is where the climb of the Col de Glandon, or the Col de la Croix de Fer, actually starts, and that is a beast.
Now, this guy's one of the best descenders in the world, I think, so this is how you should do it. 19 seconds the gap. Roman Bardet, the winner yesterday, is at it again now, and he's got his tail up here. He wants to go even higher in the overall classification. It is his third Tour de France, Paul. Last year, because he finished 6th, the French expected him to walk through as winner in Paris, and he said it doesn't come that way. It's not quite like that.
No, he's right. He said
every
French rider who comes forward, they think you're going to be the next winner of the Tour de France, and he tries to put all of that kind of pressure away from him. Even yesterday he was asked, well, now that you've won this stage, are you going to be a Tour de France winner? He said, well, you know what, I think I would rather try and win stages and get that incredible emotion from winning a stage than fighting out to finish in between 10th to 15th place in the Tour de France and have the freedom to go for stage victories.
Well, there he is. He wears the red number because he was voted the most aggressive rider of the stage. There could be no arguments with that yesterday after he attacked on the Col de Glandon. And he stays up there. I don't know what's happened to Rigoberto Urán, but he may have out-descended him here.
Well, he's about 15 seconds behind. I think he's just keeping a close eye on him. But just watch the way this guy goes around these corners. It really is quite magical. He's lining himself up perfectly. You see how he switched quickly across to the right-hand side, adjusts his speed correctly to go almost on the apex, using all of the tarmac there to pick himself up to high speed once again. This is the Frenchman Pierre Roland, who, let's not forget, Phil, 3 years ago was the winner at the top of this very climb here.
Yes, and bet your life he'd like to do it again. He's had a second place, and he'll see if he can improve on that. Well, this is at the head of the yellow jersey group, and there's the yellow jersey making the corner safely just at the moment as they come round. They're running away from the Col de Chaussy now, and we'll go down to the town of Épinay. We're still a little way from there, and that's where we'll have the green jersey sprint. He's got himself 22 seconds, but as you know, it's a long way to go to the finish.
No, it certainly is, but I think he may well be given a bit of... Oh, he's got a slightly wrong line here, but you see how he adjusts his speed perfectly, gets a bit too far into the middle of the road to take that corner, but he's just got the ability, he's judging his speed to perfection to be able to correct himself going around that corner and not put himself into a little bit of difficulty. He really is a very good descender. He has no fear at all. And here is Rigoberto Urán coming straight back through the slipstream of the motorbike to rejoin him. Urán, I think, got caught out a little bit earlier on the descent by the slightly tighter and more technical corners. Now, as they get down into the yellow jersey group is actually only 17 seconds behind them, but I think maybe when they get down into the valley road, the yellow jersey group may just switch off a fraction as Pierre Rolland tries to bridge a gap. He's halfway across between the yellow jersey group and the two leaders.
Face of Pierre Rolland here. He's not afraid of descending either.
Well, he's not, and Phil, yesterday he did make the point that he was caught out a little bit by the accident to Jakob Fuglsanger when Romain Bardet made his attack off the front, and he paused for a moment and he felt that he didn't respond quick enough and ended up chasing all the way down to the finish to end up in second position. Today, I don't think he wants to make the same tactical mistake.
This is the yellow jersey group, and you see it's not very big. There are others coming on now on this long descent. Geraint Thomas is back, and slowly but surely he's getting his riders in black around him, Chris Froome. But they better all be back before we start the big climb of the day today, and the longest climb of the Tour at 22.4 kilometers, the Croix de Fer. It is a really difficult climb. It is outside category. When we get over the top of it, we are 55 kilometers from the summit. It's an HC class climb over the Col de Mollard, and then the climb up to where we commentate from at La Toussuire.
Well, I think now, Phil, they're just about to get off the descent. They'll drop down into the town of La Chambre, which, if you translate into English, means the room. So hopefully they've got all the doors closed. They've got about 30 kilometers or 18 miles of flat valley road before they start the next climb of the day, and that's when I think we'll start to see a little bit of regrouping before the next aggression on the slopes of the climb. But I think the first thing to read into this first 45 minutes of racing is the fact that towards the top of that first climb of the day, Chris Froome was very, very isolated with only one teammate left alongside him, and that was the Dutchman, Wout Poels. And you can be certain that all of his contenders will have noticed that his team was looking a little bit frayed on the edges today.
Well, he did make it pretty obvious, but you know, the next climb is a different climb. 22 seconds, two riders coming together as we descend away from the Col de Chaussy. Still 108 kilometers to the finishing line. Rigoberto Urán has just come up behind Bardet, the winner yesterday, but the peloton with Chris Froome, it's getting bigger in size as well. The gap's 22 seconds.
It is, and I think if they could just, well, you've got a couple of chasers coming across, so one of them is Pierre Rolland. They are saying, in fact, that it's also Joaquim Rodriguez, but I hadn't seen him. I thought I saw a teammate. Anyway, we'll get more clarification of that. Urán has got that aerodynamic position at the front. He's just now coming into the town of La Chambre, and then they'll have that long valley road, which I think will see the yellow jersey group will slow down a fraction. In fact, we're getting confirmation that it is Joaquim Rodriguez in the chase group with Pierre Rolland. He does not want Romain Bardet to go clear because he's now comfortably leading the Frenchman by 10 points. But there's a lot of points available over today's day.
And there's 25 at the top of the next climb, and that's very important. It would put him in second place. He'd lose his jersey on the next climb if Bardet was to go over in first or second position at the moment. Well, the town's put all the bunting out as we're going through the room, as La Chambre. We're in the region 73 today, which is the Savoie of France, and we're in it all day. It is a stunningly beautiful region of France.
Well, here's the yellow jersey group, and it's in fact the riders from Lotto Jumbo doing the majority of the pacemaking. There's Robert Hessing. He's looking very good in this final week of the Tour de France. He's currently in 6th place overall. 7 minutes and 39 seconds down, and this group really has swelled in numbers. There's Michael Rogers going through.
Geraint Thomas there, so he's now safely back, and Leopold Koenig has just come back as well. So slowly but surely they're getting back up. They'll try to recover on this descent and then we race along the valley.
Well, the one Sky Rider who's seriously missing is, in fact, Richie Port, who went off very, very early on in the early kilometres of that first category climb of the day.
Looking into the face here of Rigoberto Urán, and now Romain Bardet has become a big star of French cycling overnight. And he'll be inspired by everything he read about himself. He's a very polite, very quiet cyclist, and he's the sort of likeable guy the French will warm to. There's a bit of a move going on down there, looks like Lotto.
Well, it says a lot to my thought that they were not going to attack along the valley floor.
Well, I'm not too sure why they're pushing on, but they're trying to make a breakaway up front, and reaction coming from the peloton.
Again, Daniel Tekla-Heimanot, he's looking for the move today. The first African rider to wear the King of the Mountains jersey at the Tour de France, and he's been very aggressive. The whole of Team MTN Quebec Phil have been very prominent, and I think really very much paying respect to their wildcard selection to the Tour de France.
Now these boys are trying to sense that they might be able to build up a winning, a race-long breakaway from the peloton now. They're not marked men there, trying to get into the move at the front. Need to bridge 22 seconds to help out these two riders. Urán looking over his shoulder. I don't think you see them around these roads here.
Well, Urán has not got much to make out of a breakaway like this, Phil. He's lost himself almost an hour and a half in the overall standings. But all of a sudden, I'm just looking, there's a bit of reinforcements coming forward.
There's Rodriguez come across, that won't be welcomed by Bardet.
Now this is, looks like Gauthier making the move. Now I'm not quite sure of the move by Gauthier because he's got a teammate in the front.
Yeah.
So that's a bit strange.
Roland has got to the front, the most important rider on the team, but Europcar yesterday had 4 riders in the breakaway.
Well, I think the reason he's making the move there, Phil, is it's almost come back together. The gap is not very much more than 10 seconds between the leading group of 4, Cyril Gauthier here, and a little bit further back the yellow jersey group, who don't seem to have too much organisation. I think they realise this 30-kilometre stretch is a chance when they've got to recover before the next climb of the day.
Well, look at the distance there. Still riders coming through after that descent, broken on the way up, and their speed. If these riders are going to keep on countering like this, they're not going to get on either. This was supposed to be the rebuilding section of the course today, but they're staying with the screws tightly turned up. This is Pierre Rolland. There's the composition of the breakaway: Bardet, Rodriguez, Urán and Roland. Chris Froome won't be sending the chase up. He'll be looking to recover with his team as best they can here before we start the big climb of the day.
Well, Gauthier has acted as a carrot to the donkey here because he's been right off the front of the main field, encouraging them to chase. So as we pull back now, we can see that there is one lone leader, and that's Pierre Rolland just up the road. These 3 riders, I think Purito Rodriguez in the polka dot jersey, he's quite happy to have caught the man that he's keeping a close eye on today, and that is Romain Bardet, slackening off the shoes just a little bit. Now Gauthier wants to go again. Well, obviously he doesn't like the fact that his teammate is leading on his own, and he figures that 2 pairs of legs are better than 1.
Well, this time they're gathering forces behind. In the distance there's a small group chasing. That peloton is still very small here, and we've a long way to go. 104 kilometres, that's a long way.
Well, we're looking here at Pierre Rolland, who interestingly enough was the last winner in the Tour de France here at the top of La Toussuire, and that was back in 2012. He's obviously smarting a little bit by finishing second on yesterday's stage. He just waited a little bit too long to move behind Romain Bardet and never caught him up right the way up to the finishing line.
Well, Pierre Rolland forcing the gaps to open again. Riders living in hope are trying to reach him. Just 9 seconds the spread. And Sagan, who would love to be up here for the sprint, which is at 42 kilometres into the stage today, is still behind the field. And here he is, and he's in this, not that far now. There's the field up front with the yellow jersey, so He wants to be across and try and get a few cheeky points in that green jersey, because Andre Greipel, Mark Cavendish are even further behind. This is a horrible day for the sprinters today.
Well, two reasons why Peter Sagan wants to get into this group, Phil, is first of all to try and get himself points at the intermediate sprint point when they go through Epierre, but also to be there and to be helpful for Alberto Contador.
Warren Barguil, 82. Adam Yates, 108. So they've all got themselves into the group again now, and coming straight through on the right, of course, that green jersey of Peter Sagan. He knows he's closing in on the sprint point. He might have come back in the nick of time. It looks as though Pierre Roland is going to be swept up here.
Yeah, but the sad thing, Phil, for Peter Sagan is that group has a small group has split off the front of the yellow jersey, and Sagan has
spotted it. He spotted it. The race split there as it slowed down. Riders hoping for a long day away from the race contest for the winner of the Tour.
I'm sorry, Phil, I cannot say enough good about Peter Sagan. You know, this guy is phenomenal, and when a guy like Bernard Hinault, who won the Tour de France on 5 occasions, gives somebody a compliment, because he very rarely compliments anybody in this day and age, but he reckons that the sport needs more men like Peter Sagan, a man who does not calculate, he doesn't look at his wattage, he doesn't look at his heart rate, he rides with his heart and with his gut.
That makes him a complete bike rider for sure. And we'll see what happens now, because they're going to try and close down this if they can, as we're seeing a little bit of a counter move just now with Christian Curran, who was in trouble earlier.
Well, Sagan didn't get out of that group. He's almost being held hostage in the group there. Vive le Tour! Well, we're not going to contradict that, are we? Long live the Tour.
In Savoie, and that's where we are all day today. 29 seconds at the gap. Well, I must say these riders have not given up attacking since the flag was pulled in. This is going to be a very hard day for the riders in the Tour.
Yep, 100 kilometres to go. I make that about 4 kilometres to the intermediate sprint point, and still they are throwing caution to the wind. Pierre Roland has been brought back into the fold now by that small group that split off the front of the yellow jersey group, and attacks that continue to happen. This is Dan Martin now, just ahead of Daniel Tekle-Heimanot. He's the Eritrean rider who has become quite a star in the Tour de France this year at 93 kilometres to go. 99 kilometres to go. We're just going through the small town of La Chapelle. It's 29 seconds. There's the yellow jersey. I'm just looking back. You can see Vincenzo Nibali. And there is Joaquim Rodriguez looking down to see who's made this group. But now all of a sudden the group has become just a little bit too big, and that's why there'll be a general slowing down. But 30 seconds to the yellow jersey group. We're now looking at a large splinter movement going off the front of the main field. This is Michael Rogers, followed there by Joaquim Rodriguez, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. Here is Chris Froome, and he is 32 seconds behind, but with a much bigger group than we were with a little earlier on once we got up to the top of the first big climb of the day, the Col du Chaussy. There's Vincenzo Nibali. And they're, well, having a quick look at the cows who are enjoying the view here in Savoie. Savoie are now for some of the magnificent cheeses. France produces more than 420 different kind of cheeses, by the way. And there's a very nice hard cheese comes from the Savoie region, the Tome de Savoie. 45, Rafael Maika. It's been a very rapid race when you think about the fact that there's been an awful lot of climbing so far. We're about 3 kilometres to go now to the sprint point at Epierre.
Well, if the combination's right, this might go away a little bit, Paul, because I think they've had enough of attacking just for the moment, racing to the nice little town of La Chapelle.
Yeah, well, the attacks have come from all quarters here, Phil, and that's been very, very rapid. I feel a bit sorry for Peter Sagan, because he was looking to actually wrap up the sprint competition this afternoon. It's 3 kilometres to go there. He's caught in the yellow jersey group, around about 31 seconds behind, so I don't think he's going to see the front, especially when you can see they've got the cars behind the group there. The yellow car is the neutral service vehicle, and the red car is the race referee, so they currently feel that the group behind is not going to catch up before the sprint point.
He needs just 7 points in the green jersey competition to put it on the shelf for a 4th gear, and he doesn't score at all if he's not in the first 15 riders at the sprint point. 3 kilometres to go for Sagan, but the gap now being timed at around about 32 seconds. But 100 metres to the sprint, is anybody going to have a go? I don't think so.
Peter Sagan is in the second group on the road with the yellow jersey group. He tried to get across to this move, but just couldn't quite get there as they kept the pressure on. The riders in this group, as they come through there, are no challenge at all. There, Pierre Rolland looking comfortable. Joachim Rodriguez, it's really, Phil, very much a group of the climbers or the contenders for the climbing prize who've managed to slip into this move. And the yellow jersey group now has really slipped away to 1 minute and 10 seconds.
So Roman Sikar, I think it was there, going ahead. Daniel Tekla-Hybenot here is trying to catch that group on his own right now.
Yeah, like we said, this young man from Eritrea has become quite a star in his country. He missed the back seat of the bus there, but he's certainly not giving up the ghost. He's trying to get across the gap. He's halfway across in no man's land. As we start to see, they really are slowing down in this group, and that's because they're picking up a little bit of a headwind coming down the valley road, as Team Sky now seem to have calmed the ardours of everybody. There were a lot of attacks early on. Down to 3 riders from Sky, followed by Chris Froome, followed by Alejandro Valverde, Nairo Quintana, and then behind him in the Italian National Champions jersey is Vincenzo Nibali. But further back to the AG2R. Oh, there's a crash at the back. Well, that was a crazy crash there. I don't know how that happened. Well, just as we were coming into town there, the rider who went down there, in fact, was Alexandre Juniez. Well, that was very, very crazy the way that happened. It just goes to show anything can happen at any time during the Tour de France. You just think you're having a nice, relaxing ride through a beautiful little town like this one here of Epierre, and the next minute you find yourself on the ground. All the riders looking back to see just what sort of damage happened. Number 53 is Jonathan Castroviejo. He's the Spanish national time trial champion coming forward. It's always chaos at this moment as well. This is another group a little bit further back, and there's plenty of sprinters. There's our good friend Thomas de Gent, about 4 or 5 back, with a little bit of a beard around the Lotto Soudal rider's face. And behind him, you've got the big record rider from yesterday, Bob Jungels. Richie Port is in this group, but doing a little bit of tempo riding, and big old Ian Stannard. This is a very, very big group.
That's a different tactic there. They're trying to chase now and drive at the front rather than defend to get across the gap as they go through the sprint point. Stannard and Richie Port want to be up by the side of Chris Froome just now.
Well done, my man, because he's just about to make the junction with that leading group.
He's chosen just a short climb before we continue to go down again before we get onto the fair, and he's made the most of that, and he's going to get in amongst those cars. It's been a very good chase by Daniel Tekla-Hybenot. MTN Quebec, the wildcard team, came here just to do what they could do, and they've turned out to be an absolutely sensational first-time team in the Tour de France. Africa. Motorway speeds along there as it races towards Italy. As we watch the Tour de France on the right-hand side, they're still second in the team race, by the way, MTN Quebec. They lost a bit of ground yesterday. They lost 20 minutes. Now, it sounds a lot of time losing 20 minutes, but the time is 3 riders cumulative.
Nice King of the Mountains horse there up to the right-hand side as well. I think that seems to be quite a popular colour for the horses in this part of France, and maybe it's just for the month of July, though.
22 riders in the leading group now, as Daniel Tekla-Hybenot comes up to the front group, which contains the leader in the King of the Mountains, the man closest to him, Romain Bardet. So those two will go head-to-head on this climb, I suspect. It's a long way to the top of the Croix de Fer, but not at the start yet. They arrived at the back of the leading group after a long chase here. The Eritrean, the African rider, MTN Quebec, as Daniel Tekla-Hybenot comes on to the back of the group. The leader in the King of the Mountains, Joachim Rodriguez, shakes his head. Also up here is Tekla-Hybenot's teammate, Steve Cummings, who was the winner in Monde, gave the team a terrific day there. There's the full list for you at the moment. Pierre Rolland on the right of our picture. He was the rider who won the last time we went to La Tuileries back in 2012. This is a good group as far as the pressure goes for Chris Froome. He's not worried about them yet, and he's not going to counter their move.
strong effort at the very beginning.
Three riders just trying to
I would
lift
have
the
made the
pace
hour.
just a little bit here. Paul Wellens of Lotto just having a little stab here. And I might feel as though they've got the right little combination, 2 minutes 47. This is what they want. No worry about anybody chasing them down because they're up near the leaderboard. And 88 kilometres to go. Now, when we top out at the qualifier, will be 55 kilometres. So it is just about 11 kilometres to the start of the Col de la Croix de Fer.
So saying that the estimated time for this
I
ride
think the theme for the day, Phil,
was
has to be
2
the
hours
polka
and
dot
1
jersey. I
minute.
think everybody's thinking about that, the King of the Mountains, because after all, after the yellow jersey, the King of the Mountains is really the jersey that has created so many legends of the Tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 22
I'm
riders
hoping
now
for
leaving.
about
We've got
1:45
86
maybe.
kilometres to go to the finish. So the gap really is now starting to stretch out quite a fraction to well up to 2.5 minutes. Well, 2.25 minutes is what they're saying exactly. But as you can see, this is the organisation. Michael Rogers is the conductor of the orchestra here. He's been in situations like this many, many times. A former 3-time world champion in the individual time trial. Brilliant rider on the track, and now not only is he the team captain, he's also the team politician when it comes to sorting out
This is a
little
group
niggly
ride.
problems with the staff as we come down to the
Not
last few
only
moments
are
of the tour
they
when everyone's getting on the edge of their nerves and worrying about whether they're going to get the victory or
okay,
what's
so
going
from
to
the
happen
stick
in
round,
the
I
next
guess
couple of
maybe
days.
1 or 2 watts at most. But there's also the magnets
They're
effect.
now heading through the little town
So
of
the saving maybe
Saint-Rémy de Maurienne. We're going down
10%
the
power.
Maurienne Valley. This is the leading group here, number 121. Pierre Roland takes on board
further they
Briggs
fall
very
behind,
quickly. They're quite happy with this
then the more
long
power they
ride.
save.
This man over the years has turned out to be quite a climber. Many people have said that he's used a lot of his energy trying to ride the double over many seasons, trying to ride the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de
And
France. But
obviously
this
when
year,
they
he
jump
decided
ahead,
to miss out on
then
the
they are
Giro d'Italia and
wasting
concentrated
power
completely on preparing
by
for the
being
Tour de
pulled back
France.
towards me.
2011 saw him win the Alpe d'Huez. 2012 saw him win at La Toussuire. So he, I think, will be making the move once we get on to the next climb of the day, the Col de la Croix de Fer, which is quite a magical, although vicious climb. Well, it's great to see that Daniel Tekla-Hyman not rode across that gap. I thought it was going to be very difficult because you've got the 30 kilometres of flat in between the descent and the start of the next climb of the day. But he's certainly proving in the last.
You know, we were all surprised by his riding the first days in his first tour, and being an African rider who'd never seen this sort of a race. And he got the lead for 4 days in the King of the Mountains. And now he's riding like an absolute veteran, and he's getting stronger and stronger. And that's a great sign for the future for Daniel.
Yeah, dropping
So
the
let's
energy back
hope,
a little bit
and
now.
don't forget, MTN Quebecer are second
To
in
allow
the 22
Castle
teams
to
overall. And that also
bit closer.
was not expected, but now they've got there, they're going to defend that as best they can. They've got 2 riders up front.
Well, Phil, just to make you feel a little bit better about the day, the side up to the Col de la Croix de Fer from the Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne side is the longest side, which is 29.5 kilometres long. We're coming at it from the opposite side, so we've only got the shorter set today, and that's 22.5 kilometres
That'll
long.
be a big relief. They come down the Croix de Fer before they actually climb up towards the finish of the race today. Now Lotto Jumbo have got 3 riders in front. They've still got all 9 men on the squad riding here. As we get through one of the towns of the Maurienne here, Saint-Rémy de Maurienne. It's a village just off the Tour route, actually. It doesn't matter, they're still enjoying the passage of the Tour.
In fact, just going back, Phil, the first time that the Croix de Fer was actually included in the Tour de France was just after the Second World War back in 1947 on the stage from Grenoble to Briançon, and it was an Italian, Camallini, who went over the top in first place on that occasion.
I bet you the road surface was highly
I think
questionable
I will
on
do
that
a
occasion.
quick
Well, the yellow jersey is holding now. They've come inside at 2 minutes.
on the final 100 metres of the climb. So 100
And
metres
it's
of the
certainly
climb to
looking at the
go.
peloton here.
I'll
It's
do a
getting
quick
bigger,
attack.
and they're picking up this
Just to
tailwind
the
just
summons.
now.
Yeah, well, that tailwind will make these riders just feel a little bit better. They can recover before they start the next climb. But this is a massive group. Once again, we're seeing on this third of 4 mountain stages. Oh, there's a crash right at the front, going through the feeding station.
Oh, it pisses me off when people have no respect.
That's Tim Wellens who went down there. Just watch this. That was Tim Wellens. It was. And that was, Well, it was just at the moment when he took on board his bag from the team helper at the side of the road. And I've always said, I said so many times that the feeding station is very, very dangerous. Little things happen. And Wellens, he's not happy with that, and I'm not surprised. They're up alongside, they're trying to get his bike ready. That's Mark Sargent pushing him away there. Mark Sargent, a former Tour de France rider and a former Belgian national champion. He's the team manager of Lotto Soudal. Well, that's taking the wind out of the sails of these riders in the front. Well, that was a bit of a shock. And as I say, all of the riders when you come to the feeding station like this, riders like to get to the front of the group. So Tim Wellens back up on his bike and trying to catch up. There's the doctor alongside to help.
For him, and because of that, they don't appear in the breakaways very often. They're trying to give him his best ever finish in the Tour de France, and he's right there in this front group. We're not far from the start now, and then I think we're going to see again major attacks on this difficult climb of 22.4 kilometers, and we're on it. We've just started the climb at 22.4 kilometers up to 6,700 feet, 30% is the steepest gradient. This is a hard slog, Paul. Over the years, the Col de la Croix de Fer has played its part in the Tour de France.
Well, it has. It's the longest climb in the Tour de France at 22.4 kilometers, and there's some interesting names in the leading group. Joachim Rodriguez, I think Michael Rogers and Roman Krujcik are two important riders for Tinkoff Saxo. They'll be thinking about a move from behind by Alberto Contador. But Pierre Rolland, the rider who was second on the stage yesterday, is comfortably ensconced in the leading group of 22. What has happened to Team Sky, because just looking down there is only one guy left in this group for Team Sky, and that's Wouter Poels, the Dutch rider on that squad. Everyone else has disappeared. There are two riders from Astana. There's one of them looking after Vincenzo Nibali. There are two riders from Movistar, as we can see this rider slipping away here, and that is Adriano Malori.
Yes, and he's falling from the front group. There's Steve Cummings being picked up, checking out how many's there, and you'll find only 8 or 9 riders here in the peloton.
There's Michael Rogers looking over his shoulder. He's going to have a quick chat there with his man Alberto Contador. That's one of the reasons why Michael Rogers went into that early breakaway, so he could have an easy ride and slip back. Now all of a sudden Alberto Contador, Phil, has two teammates in this group, but Wouter Poels looks as if he's now in a spot of bother.
Well, he was yesterday, and he's last man standing for Sky right now, and now Chris Froome is going to have to handle himself here. Bauke Mollema just holding on the back, but I think Poels here is going to go off. There's Bauke Mollema.
Well, he's gone. So too has Michael Rogers. Rogers just slipping off the back end of the bus there. Rafael Mike
is gone again, Paul.
Oh, yeah, Nibali.
Nibali has attacked again, and the high revving Chris Froome trying to nail him back. He's got no teammate to contain him. He's gone for him. Now he's got a lot of time advantage over Nibali. He's got 8 minutes and 4 seconds. He can afford to lose a bit of time, but the others can't, and they're waiting and making Froome do the counter.
Sitting there as if waiting in the wings, number 5 at the back there in that white jersey, Phil, is Nairo Quintana. He's just sitting there and watching. He's allowing his teammate Alejandro Valverde to do all of this work. Robert Hessing and Bauke Mollema, the two Dutch hopes, they're in difficulty as Wouter Poels, Phil, has found something. He says, I've got to stay here, and he's really turning himself inside out.
Well, we're looking at first, second, third, and Quintana's moving up, and 4th place in the Tour de France because Geraint Thomas has slipped away. He's lost his 4th place at the moment to Contador. As the pressure goes on, we've gone back up to the leading group. Now we're back with the yellow jersey. Well, if he wins this Tour de France, he's going to win the hardest tour for a very long time.
Well, he keeps looking down there, trying to concentrate on his pedalling style, but you know what, all of a sudden he's got the real big threats coming to him. Quintana is prizing open a bicycle length. Froome starts that pedalling cadence, drags himself up to the back wheel. This is Roman Krujcik and Roman Bardet. They were in the front group a little while back, Phil, but now all of a sudden as they look over their shoulders, they say, uh-oh, the big boys are coming.
And going past is Kangata, the pacemaker for Nibali in second. Quintana is waiting there. He's never had to attack, but that's what he said he will do. He's given himself a 10% chance of winning the Tour de France. We may have underestimated him.
Or he may have been playing his cards very close to his chest on an occasion like this. They've still got Alejandro Valverde. Alberto Contador, you can't even really tell how he's feeling. He's got that bouncy little style. He's still got plenty of energy in those legs. And again, Chris Froome in fourth position there in that yellow jersey. That face is not giving anything away.
And now they've had one flurry of attacks. They're going to try and launch something else here. Contador's moving up.
Also moving up, look at that, Team Astana. If you remember in the Giro d'Italia earlier this year, Team Astana were very, very strong. And they said they raced hard in the Giro d'Italia to fatigue Alberto Contador for the Tour de France. And let's not forget, there's a lone leader as well there. He's French and his name is Pierre Rolland. He wears the leader's number of Team Europcar, and he is number 121. Second, third and fourth on the road. This is Rigoberto Urán, but look at the gap as they pick up, and in fact it's a nasty headwind into this climb, and that might play into the hands of Chris Froome because that will nullify the speed that the climbers can attack. Climbers historically like to have a tailwind because they can create these rapid, nasty accelerations. Hessig, Bauke Mollema, Rafael Majka are these three riders. 1, 2, 3 there, just trying to stay in contact, just sitting up there, trying to get a little bit of extra air there. In fact, tying up his jersey is Daniel Tekla-Hymanot, the Eritrean, just looking at this and saying, wow, these are the big names that I've read about ever since I was a young cyclist. Back in 2009, he was invited to the International Cycling Union's School of Cycling in Lausanne, Switzerland. Little did he think at the time that he would go forward to be racing in the Tour de France. Urán. 1 minute and 52. He's got a big face of concentration there. We've just actually lost Kruijswijk. I couldn't see Kruijswijk. While further up the road now, Pierre Rolland is looking at 61 kilometers to go. Over the top of the climb, it's 55 kilometers to go.
Well, Joaquim Rodriguez is also in trouble now as the breakaway. He's gone right through the peloton here. Rodriguez, boy, he's blown big time.
Well, he has. He used a lot of energy on that first climb of the day to try and find that early breakaway. Now he's paying for those efforts. But he's not the only one paying for efforts on a day like today. Robert Hessing had all of his teammates a little earlier on doing all of the pacemaking to toughen up the race, and he's asking for some help from a compatriot, Bauke Mollema, also the leader of Team Trek Factory Racing. These two riders, Phil, are in the top 10 in the overall standings, but now they're on the back foot. If they were boxers, they'd be up against the ropes.
And that's Rafael Majka with them as well, who is supposed to help Contador. He's also cracked. This is Camel Tangut at the front at the moment, and then we've got at the middle now. Well, Jens Voigt, this pressure, they've really hit out at Chris Froome now.
They definitely do all they can. They're throwing everything at him they have. And after looking at Froome and his position, the way his head moves his face, either he's playing like a Hollywood Oscar theater here, or he actually does struggle a little. Maybe he's just trying to look vulnerable so that Team Astana keeps riding tempo and he can save his last man remaining with him. He can save this guy because they think they can attack Froome, or actually Chris Froome is in a little bit of trouble here. He doesn't look comfortable to me.
I'll tell you, we've just seen pictures of the col. It is getting harder and harder and harder. If Chris Froome is weak, Paul, then it's going to be shown right now.
Well, I tell you one thing, a couple of days ago I thought he was looking like a praying mantis getting ready to pounce on his prey. Today I'm not sure that he's not, looking a little bit like a stick insect, just hoping to survive and camouflage himself in that group of riders. But as they start to look over, that Rigoberto Urán takes a double take. What's going on here? Well, yes, I can tell you what's going on, Rigoberto. Just behind you is the yellow jersey group, and he's realised that, so he's trying to grasp a few little bits of air to survive. Daniel Tekla-Hymanot.
Yes, he got up to the leaders. He's been passed right through now, and he's just going to have to survive like just about everybody else in today's stage of the Tour de France. This very compact group here. Platzer, we saw pictures of there, the winner in gap. Bauke Mollema's gone on to the back along with Robert Hessing, and it's all in charge of one man pacing Nibali.
Well, isn't it funny how Lady Luck trails her chance, because managing to survive, he's been yo-yoing off the back of the group. So Wouter Poels, the Dutch rider on Team Sky, has managed to survive. So yes, Chris Froome does have an ally alongside him in this group, but he's got an awful lot of enemies too waiting to move.
That group went down to 7 men. It's come back up to quite a few more than that. We are still 5 kilometres and a very steep finish to this climb, believe me. Pierre Rolland will be unaware of the drama behind, and he's getting on with the job to try and win the day. He's holding 2:23, and there's a lot of riders in between now, but they're slowly being swept up one by one by Nibali and Kankat and Chris Froome. Wout Poels is the only one of Sky left alongside.
Ruben Plaza from Lampre, he really is now starting to struggle. You know, we're still looking at 5 kilometres to go to this climb. There are still 2 more climbs on the day to come once they've gone over the top of this climb, the Col de la Croix de Fer, the Col de Mollard, and then finishing up to the massive ascent of the Col de la Toussuire.
Well, take a look at the hill, the gradients for yourself. It is such a cruel climb. We're heading up to 6,000 feet on this climb now. We top out at 6,781 feet as they zigzag their way to the summit. And it's still Astana. They've tried to break Chris Froome. There he is. He's just riding in his own silent hell there at the moment, just out of the saddle, rocking and rolling.
Well, the rider just behind him is teammate Wout Poels. He really can't do very much to help him, but he knows he has to stay in contact. Well, the only reason I think Phil is riding himself inside out at the moment, he knows he has to stay there just in case his teammate has a problem. We're getting information from the transponders that Gerrit Thomas is more than 2 minutes and 15 seconds behind, and he'll be dropping down in the overall standings. The first time that he showed any signs of weakness, and I have to think that that maybe has something to do with that very, very nasty accident he had on the way down into Gap. Although he played it down, and obviously the team PR machine would play it down. Valverde's making a move.
There's the attack by Valverde, about 4 kilometres or so to go to the summit. And there's no reaction from Froome. He can't chase anybody. He's now more or less on his own. Wout Poels tries to take up the tempo, but I don't know how long Poels can keep doing this. And in fact, the others are waiting to let the pressure go. There's the attack. And that's a good move by Valverde. Sits 3rd in the race.
Valverde can throw caution to the wind. You know, this is a guy who's got such an incredible pedigree behind his name. He's won all of the big races. He's won the Vuelta a España. But he's thinking, you know, today we've got Chris Froome on the back foot, and I can ride hard like this because my teammate in the white jersey there, Nairo Quintana, just can sit back and look. And if Froome shows any sign of weakness, Quintana can come across to me and we can set something up in the latter part of this race. Look at the gradient here, Phil. We're looking now at around about 11% gradient.
Late September.
Well, Poel is doing what he can do, but we don't know for how much longer because he's been weak these last couple of days. Poel towards the end in the mountains. Now we are 4.5 kilometres, and immediately Valverde's gone across to Ruben Plaza, and the only other man up front is Pierre Rolland, the leader, by 2:08 over yellow. He is now putting all of the pressure on Chris Froome, because if they catch Valverde, Quintana will go, the teammate of Valverde.
I don't think we'll see a move coming from Nairo Quintana until we come to the final climb of the day, but if they keep putting this much pressure onto Chris Froome, Nairo Quintana could pull back a good 1.5 minutes on the final climb of the day if Froome goes through a bad patch. That makes it a real big suspense on tomorrow's final stage in the mountains up to the summit of Alpe d'Huez. And all of the time, Phil, there he is, Nairo Quintana just peering through, just keeping a close eye. He's looking for any telltale signs in the pedalling style of Chris Froome, just sitting there watching, ascertaining whether or not Froome is joking, whether he's playing the role of a Hollywood actor and trying to hide his game. And if Quintana there in that white jersey feels that Chris Froome is showing any signs of weakness, bang, he'll go straight over the top.
Wout Poels doing a superb job here. He's taking himself into the red zone. I don't know how long he can stay there, but he's limited that escape by Valverde. He's just ahead of him. It's nothing. Once we go on the way down, they should come back together. That's fine riding by Poel, but how long can he do it, the 27-year-old Dutchman? Now this is the leader, let's not forget him, he's trying to win the day. He's the only man in front of all the action now, when there was 22 of them before. 2:07 the gap. Well, they've limited Valverde. He's made the move, but I'm afraid the legs are saying, yeah, you've made the move, but we can't keep pedaling like this.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, Phil. You feel good when you're sitting in the wheels, because look at the flags. We're riding into a headwind, and now if sitting in the wheels, you feel a little bit confident. You say, wow, they're going up here quite easily. I'm in good form right now. You make the attack, but then to consolidate on the advantage is much more difficult. Meanwhile, all of a sudden, Wout Poels has got no friends. He's just sitting there. he will do probably the ride of his life here, not thinking about himself at all, unselfishly dedicating himself to his leader. He knows he's got to ride as long as possible, but he daren't blow himself up because he realizes, we got a little bit of a monkey over to the side of the road there. He realizes, Phil, there's still a lot of climbing left to do, and Chris Froome needs him. He's thinking about trying to get a stage victory in the same town where he won.
40 years celebration since the Col de Glandon, the first time he had the King of the Mountains jersey, which was worn the first time by Joop Zoetemelk, a Dutchman.
Yes, but you've got to go back to 1940. Oh, Chris Froome has got a little problem there. Now, all of a sudden, there was a little mechanical, and Chris Froome stopped at the side of the road, and Vincenzo Nibali has seen that, and he's launching an attack. Wout Poels immediately saw the problem there and stopped at the side of the road, but in fact, Chris Froome has decided he can't even wait for his teammate Wout Poels, and he's got to go very, very quickly. Well, that's going to leave Chris Froome completely isolated. Froome's coming up just in front of him there. You've got Roman Kreuziger.
Well, whatever happened to Chris Froome, it's a dim view and black mark for Vincenzo Nibali. You don't attack a rider. That's the gentleman's agreement when the rider is down through no fault of his own.
Well, they're clawing their way back and just tagged onto the back there. Wout Poels almost stopped immediately, saw the little mechanical incident happening to Chris Froome, but I don't think he had the firepower to be able to help him at all. Look at that amazing pedalling cadence of Froome. He's just riding up there, catching each of these riders one by one. But he knows, Phil, he's got the experience now to know he must not panic. He must not put himself into the red zone, put himself into a little bit of oxygen debt. Looking back, Valverde sees the gap behind them. It's Micah. Vincenzo Nibali wants to get away over the top of this climb to try and ride free on the descent.
Well, it's left now to Chris Froome to pedal his way through. Riders do not attack other riders when they have mechanicals like that, and it's put the race leader on the defensive. The other boys are just trying to stop. Now, he's not too worried about the attack by Vincenzo Nibali because he's over 8 minutes behind. But he wants to control Valverde and, of course, Quintana and Contador. And Froome now has been put really on the defensive.
Well, Froome, a little bit of a mechanical incident. He's really spinning those pedals now, just trying to catch up to the group behind him, behind Vincenzo Nibali, and that contains Valverde, Contador, Romain Bardet and Nairo Quintana. Now he's got very, very low gearing, and he's twiddling it as fast as he can to try and make the contact before he gets to the top of this climb. For the first time now, he's been put into a little bit of difficulty, but not for physical reasons, because of mechanical reasons. That's why he's been left like this.
Well, Nibali is pushing on here, and we're watching Froome try and get back. Jens Voigt, what do you think of that move by Nibali?
Well, I would probably need to look at another replay, but it definitely looked like Nibali attacked the second that Froome had the problem that he went. Maybe he already had in mind to attack there, but yes, it did look like there is a coincidence of the moment of the attack and the yellow jersey having a mechanical problem.
Well, I'm not sure. It was difficult to see whether or not he was about to make the move when Froome had that incident, but I'm not sure he even knows what's happened to Froome. But the fact of the matter is, it's all back together now.
He looked straight at him and saw him stop. There we are. That's up to Chris Froome now to put himself back in the race here. There's a spread to the leader of 1:54. Nibali has slipped away by 24 seconds at the moment, and he's going to get big points in the King of the Mountains as we race towards the summit.
Well, I think this, in fact, this tactic could actually play into the advantage of Chris Froome a little bit later on, because Vincenzo Nibali getting clear like this will start to put pressure on other riders in the group like Valverde and Quintana, and they may well have to collaborate, because as we said before, if Vincenzo Nibali was to attack like this, Chris Froome doesn't really need to respond. He's got so much of a comfort buffer over Nibali. Bear in mind, the distance between Chris Froome and Vincenzo Nibali, Phil, in the overall stand is in excess of 8 minutes at the start of the day.
It is 8 minutes 4 seconds, and Nibali wears #1 as winner of this Tour de France last year, when both Contador and Froome had crashed out of the Tour, but they were behind him overall at the time. Well, this is a very select group of riders now. Valverde, number 59, there, has tried the attacks, but the man who's pulled off the coup just now is Vincenzo Nibali, last year's winner. He looked over his shoulder and looked straight at Chris Froome as he stopped on the left of the road, and he launched the attack. He's about 25 seconds ahead on the climb of the Col de la Croix de Fer.
Well, look at the change in the movement at the front. Steven Kruijswijk on the front for Lotto Jumbo. In third position is Robert Hessing. Himself, Robert Hessing looked as if he was in difficulty. Just look how hard this climb is. You can just really about read the body language here of Pierre Rolland. He's just struggling to get that wheel and pedals over the top to keep himself going forwards. He's got a minute and 22 seconds advantage over Nibali and a minute 54 over the yellow jersey group. But the Shark of Messina, as the nickname is, of Vincenzo Nibali, well, he's taken a big chunk out of this breakaway group this afternoon.
Now, these boys are riding sensibly. Froome has got back into this. Wouter Poels has also got back in control in Sky. Kruijswijk on the top. 1 kilometre to go for Pierre Rolland. He's got a lead of about a kilometre or so over the chase.
Well, in fact, from the bottom of the climb, you can now see that the wind has actually changed direction. It winds up this mountain pass up to the top of the Col de la Croix de Fer. At the beginning of the climb, the riders were picking up a very stiff headwind. And look at the flag there, Phil. You can see now that they're getting a block tailwind, and that will give the advantage to the real climbers. They like tailwind because it means they can push their speeds a lot higher on the slopes of a climb.
Well, Froome is now number 3. Quintana sits on his wheel. The one man who hasn't made a move, but he's watched the others hit out at Chris Froome, softening him up perhaps for a big attack on the last climb by Quintana. Valverde's done his job, sitting 3rd overall. Gone is Geraint Thomas, so Contador is now 4th overall in the Tour de France. And Nibali, who sits 7th, is likely to climb 1 or 2 places if he keeps this attack up.
Let's not forget one reason why he wants to be clear of that group is going over the top of this climb. This man is one of the best descenders in the whole of the peloton, and he will be able to consolidate on his advantage over the yellow jersey group, but he'll also be able to eat into the advantage of this man, Pierre Rolland, who is not much more now than 600 metres to the top of the climb.
Wind blowing off his shoulder there as the flags of Slovakia fly. That's for, they'll have to wait a while for the arrival of Peter Sagan. But now this rider, for the first time in this tour, has really got himself free to fly.
So
and
the
he's got
hour
a chance
and
of
40 minutes
making
was
up
just a
some of those
fantasy.
8 minutes and 4 seconds he has lost over 2.5 weeks to Chris Froome, last year's winner of the Tour de France. He was so dominant in the mountains, but Chris Froome and Contador weren't here.
No, they weren't. Pierre Rolland, once he gets to the top of this climb, he will be able to recover for quite a long descent, because once he crests the Col de la Croix de Fer, he's got a long descent down into the valley, a descent of around about 12 kilometres.
Heading up to the summit, Pierre Rolland, the outside category. He gets himself 25 points in the King of the Mountains. That's not his aim today. He'll speed over the summit and head to the Col de Molor. The difference between the top of the Croix de Fer and the top of the Col de Molor is 12 miles. A little bit of down, a little bit of up. Big moment for the Frenchmen. They've got the control of the Tour these last couple of days, at least as far as the daily stages go. He's over the top of the Col de la Croix de Fer. Now the descent to the bottom of the Col de Molor.
12% rating right now.
Vincenzo Nibali trying to follow in the wheel marks of Fausto Coppi, who many years ago was the first rider over the top of this climb, the Col de la Croix de Fer. He was known as Il Campionissimo, the great champion, and he certainly was, Fausto Coppi, who strangely enough lost his life to a rather nasty disease, which is pretty much the scourge of Africa. Fausto Coppi died of malaria.
King of the Mountains, and Froome will be probably up to 2nd. But Col de Molor, more points there, and of course more points on the finish as well. That competition will go to the end of the day to see who wears the polka dot tonight. This is the man who attacked when he looked over his shoulder and saw Froome in trouble, and he's got the gap.
Well, look at this. Froome moves straight up there, and his teammate Wouter Poels coming up alongside him. He wants to be 2nd in the line going down this descent, allowing his teammate to pick the lines around the corners. He doesn't want anybody else in front of him that he doesn't trust to keep a good smooth line going around these corners. into this rather strange, precarious position for Pierre Rolland, getting a really low tuck position to try and keep the pace as nice and high as he can. And on the straighter part of the course, you can do that. You can pick the speed up to in excess of 50 miles an hour. And you can see Vincenzo Nibali doing the same thing, but now back into the saddle, puts the brakes on, locks it over the apex of the corner.
This is a tricky one. This is a real tricky descent, this pole. You normally climb up this narrow road and it's packed with people. You can hardly see the road, but now on the way down, there's risk going to be taken.
Yeah, well, Vincenzo Nibali is 59 seconds. He shaved about 7 seconds off his disadvantage on Pierre Rolland over the first couple of corners. He's a great descender, but so too can Pierre Rolland be. His team manager, by the way, makes him do a lot of cyclocross during the winter. Look at this, another move by Valverde.
Oh, look at the acceleration. That's going to test Chris Froome. He'll brake late for the corner that's coming. He's another great descender.
Well, 35 years of age, Alejandro Valverde. He's been around the sport for an awful long time. He knows these climbs. He's been over these descents many, many times throughout his career, and he sees this as an opportunity.
Well, we're going back a few years and terrific attacking riding. And as I said earlier, if Chris Froome does run out the winner of this tour on Sunday, he'll be one of the best winners in years. Fourth over the top, Kreuziger fifth, Wout Poels in sixth place. He got 10 points in the King of the Mountains, as the Wout Poels is now leading the descent here, trying to control it in favour of his team leader. They can't control Nibali at the moment, who will not be causing them too much concern because he's 8 minutes behind.
That's quite right. They mustn't panic on the position of Vincenzo Nibali, because let's not forget there's another very difficult day today, and if Vincenzo Nibali goes out and uses a lot of energy today to try and win himself the stage, he could very likely pay for his efforts tomorrow. Nibali, I think, just trying to get himself the stage victory. Rolland went around that corner just a little bit precariously. A little bit of a bad line, slightly wrong gear because he wasn't able to accelerate back up to speed again. He'll take the advantage of these straight parts of the descent here, Phil, just to recuperate, take on board some more fluid. You should never forget, it's always difficult in a mountain stage to remember, keep drinking, keep eating.
Bardet, the virtual leader now in the polka dot jersey competition, as he needs both hands for that corner. The gendarme waving the flag of danger, which is yellow in Europe, of course. And here we now see Vincenzo Nibali running down the mountain as well, clipping the corners. I don't think I'd stand on the outside of these bends if I was the public, but they seem to like that position.
I think probably the safest part is well on the inside of the apex of the corner. Look at the way this man goes around these corners. He's 53 seconds now. That's around about 13 seconds.
He's made it wide, but he got his line wrong again as he went round that corner.
That wasn't his line, really. As he came round the corner, Phil, there was a little bit of a new toe. Hey, they're all taking risks. The reason he had that little problem, Phil, there was a little bit of a repair going round that corner, and there was a little bit of a different surface, and even Rolland came on.
They're going far too near the apex for a left-hand bend pull. They're not taking the angle a racing driver would take.
Because they know that what they have to do now is take as many risks as possible. The unfortunate thing for these guys, unlike a racing driver, Phil, is a racing driver goes around the same circuit again and again and again. He knows how the corner is. These guys might have done these corners in training before the Tour de France, but they've probably forgotten some of them. And every corner is different. Every corner has a slightly different lay of the land. Is now back up to Wout Poels. Chris Froome is up into third position, just keeping a close eye on affairs. It's Valverde there in second. Quintana, as always, as he has been since the very early part of today, just happy to sit in the shadow as Chris Froome, just waiting to see if there's any opportunity. Just look at this one more time. He gets into that corner, and the little wall over to the left-hand side, the little bit of repair to the surface there, just made him have to change his line coming around there. But he's still going down here like a man possessed. 47 kilometers to go. He's not far away now from going through the little town of Les Chambons Saint-Jean d'Arbre. And this is what's becoming really nasty now for a race like the Tour de France. It almost catches our motorbike unawares there as these speed bumps in town. When you're coming down on a bike at around 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, they, if you hit them wrong, they really can hurt and you can come unstuck. Valverde, the gap now is 50 seconds to Nibali. Nibali's shaved off around about... you see, that's the same corner that Vincenzo Nibali got caught out on a few moments ago, which is why Chris Froome had backed off And, oh,
that's it.
I tell you what.
He's safe. Everybody's got the same line on that corner.
Well, everyone, I think, Phil, got caught out by on the inside of the corner. There was a nasty little wall, and when you start to lean over, you see the wall there. It's a beautiful little flower garden, but it really does put you off.
And the garden's been done just for the Tour de France, and nobody but us has noticed it. This is Pierre Roland, now a little bit of straight to drive on the pedals. He looks over his shoulders. I wonder if he knows that Nibali is coming up behind him, because the gap is closing now. Our computer says 49 seconds to Vincenzo Nibali.
Yeah, the sad thing is, Phil, when you look at this, this has been an amazing stage so far, but there's still 46 kilometres to go. The next climb of the day is 5.7 kilometres long. The climb after that is 18, so we've got 23 kilometres to go out of the 46 kilometres left in the stage.
There's no way you take a left-hand bend riding on the left-hand side of the road, but here he comes. He's swinging right, and I think he'll go left again.
Well, he's
now,
left.
Can you see him in front? I'm not sure, but it's only... it said he's 50 seconds out. There's a motorbike up front.
Well, he's left the technical part of the descent behind him now. The corners are turning into slight sweepers. He's knocking around at around about 60 kilometres now. That indicates that the descent is not quite as severe as it was in the early part.
Well, we're going into Saint-Chourlin-d'Arve as the peloton pass under that polka dot jersey over there with a new leader now in...
Yes, well, on the quick count back, Romain Bardet now has 84 points, which gives him a 6-point advantage over Joachim Rodriguez with 78. Chris Froome has crept right up there now into 3rd place in the King of the Mountains competition with 75. So that's a competition that's going to go right the way down to tomorrow night on the Champs-Élysées. And let's not forget, tomorrow night there are 50 points available for the winner of the Alpe d'Huez stage. Now I think they seem to be calming down a fraction. A little discussion between Walter Poels and Chris Froome. Platzer coming around the outside. He's going to see this. So we're getting a little bit of information through that, in fact, the problem with Chris Froome was he, in fact, had a stone stuck in his brake caliper. So that's what the problem was there. It's a problem that's now been rectified. He was having a quick chat there with Walter Poels. And now I think a little bit of relaxation, because after all, there's still 2 difficult climbs, 23 kilometres. Half of the race left now is downhill, and half of the race is uphill to the finish in La Toussuire. Well, 50 seconds. Well, it seems as if that's been locked in now as well. The difference between Pierre Roland and Vincenzo Nibali is still 50 seconds. Roman Kreuziger of Tinkoff, he's in this group with Rafael Meike and Alberto Contador. That's still a very strong representation of Tinkoff Saxo for a possible assault on the final climb of the day. Back with the lone leader. The gap to the yellow jersey is slipping away. These rivers, by the way, are very, very swollen. In fact, a number of the roads in the Alps, because of the massive storms that we've had over the last couple of days, have been closed down because of mud and landslides. And in fact, the Col de Vase, which is not too far away from here, has been closed because of a big mudslide a few nights ago. And the reason they had to change the race route for tomorrow's stage just about a month before the start of the Tour de France, it was supposed to go over the Col du Galibier. Well, the small town of La Grave, in fact, the road there has been cut off while they still work on repairs. So that's why tomorrow we'll be going pretty much across the same climb as we now start the next climb. 5.7 kilometres up to the top of this next climb of the day, the Col du Moulin, a second category climb. There are 5 points available for the first rider to go over the top. It's a climb of 5.7 kilometres, 6.8%. Look how nasty the water looks there as well. That's all because of these very nasty landslides we've had around there. 50 seconds is the difference between these 2 men currently. Now, just having a quick look here. A little chat. What's a little discussion going on there between Chris Froome and Alejandro Valverde? Well, 2.5 minutes now is the gap between Pierre Rolland, who starts the penultimate climb of the day. He's not descended to the full amount of the descent. He will get down in once he's gone over this next climb. There is the start of the climb of the Col du Moulin for Vincenzo Nibali, 5.7 kilometers. Then it's a very long descent, a 16-kilometer descent into Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne to start the final climb of the day. Third place on the road, Ruben Plaza, winner of a stage just the other day, and that was down into Gap, and he's now been given a bit of freedom. He's not one of the marked riders, so 1, 2, 3 out on the road, and then the yellow jersey group. We're looking here now at Ruben Plaza, the winner of a stage into Gap just the day before the rest day. He's been given a bit of freedom now, and he's chasing down Pierre Rolland, who is the lone leader on the road. He's 53 seconds ahead of Vincenzo Nibali. It's 2:15 back to Plaza, who we were looking at a few moments ago, and 2.5 minutes back to the yellow jersey group. It's Team Movistar now taking responsibility of the chasing, and not a surprise really to see Cyril Gauthier in the green jersey of Europcar sitting in second position. What he's trying to do is discourage a little bit the organisation of the chase between him and his leader, Matthias Frank, pulling himself inside out just to try and stay there. Talansky, well, he's done pretty well over the last couple of days as well, because Talansky has climbed up into 12th place overall, and most of the riders now in the top 15 are actually present in this group. Pierre Rolland, we started just to talk about him a little earlier. He's had a pretty good season, a quiet season this year for Pierre Rolland, with the start of a lead in the Tour of Catalonia. This man also had a very, very quiet start of the season as well, because Vincenzo Nibali really didn't do very much at all until just before the start of the Tour de France. He won the Italian National Championships. Wouter Poels, the lean face of the Dutchman, ahead of the concentrated face of Froome. That nodding style of his, it's a very strange nodding style, but I'll tell you one thing, it works.
That peloton goes down to a handful. It swells back up to what looks to be about 15 or 20 riders as they continue now. Chris Froome in that group. Pierre Rolland here, he's still dictating affairs, but he never looks quite as solid as he did, and yet the time is saying he's doing all right.
Well, he's using a slightly bigger gear really, Phil, than Vincenzo Nibali behind him, so it looks like he's pedalling slowly. Vincenzo Nibali here is on this small chainring and a slightly bigger sprocket, so his pedaling cadence is higher. We're giving the impression that he's actually going fast, but they're actually both of them locked in at almost exactly the same speed on the road, because you can see from the time gap between the two of them, it's still only 50 seconds.
Yes, well, Nibali, his ambition now is to gain a little bit of time and maybe move out of the 7th place overall to possibly even as high as 5th. So sooner or later, the other riders must chase him down if that's going to be the case. And it looks as though Warren Barguil is also finding this a day too far in the Alps.
And now as we see Romain Bardet struggling a little bit here, we realize that in that group of the yellow jersey, which is very, very small by now, the yellow jersey Chris Froome getting help from Team Movistar, protecting a 2nd and 3rd place in the overall standings. So all the other teams and riders did a great job in isolating Chris Froome. He has one teammate left only, but now they neutralize each other, and Froome might be the laughing 3rd party. You know, everybody's fighting for his potential podium spot, and Froome just can sit back and smile and go, yep, you guys do the work, I just follow and save my day.
Yeah, well, Jensi, he can do that for the moment, but the fact of the matter is this is a very, very difficult final climb of the day up to Las Fussuires, and obviously Nairo Quintana, for me, has had the easiest day so far. He's just been sitting behind Froome, and he's just waiting for the final climb of the day.
So what you're trying to say is that Quintana has Freddy fresh legs today. I would agree. He kept the low profile so far, and yes, he's gonna go big on the last climb, and Froome will be forced to chase himself after all his concurrents, that's for sure.
Well, you have the famous phrase, shut up legs, and I wonder how many times Froome has said that to his legs today.
So here we're looking at Jose Herrada from Movistar. Behind him, Wouter Poels. Behind him is Cyril Gauthier. Gauthier is doing a fantastic job over these last few days of the Tour de France as well, and he is the teammate in there for Pierre Rolland. I have to say, Gauthier is doing a great job of work, Phil.
Well, this is a group which has swelled a bit, and nobody attacking now. They're limiting the escape by Nibali, but even so, he is pulling back time, and if he keeps pulling back at this rate, then Contador is going to have to take him on, because he's going to knock Contador out of 4th place overall in the Tour, and that certainly wasn't part of Contador's plan today.
Well, he's still got a good minute advantage over Contador. Well, a minute and 20-second advantage, and I'm sure that can all get turned around on the final climb of the day. But in my mind, Phil, I don't think a guy like Vincenzo Nibali is thinking about proving whether he could be 5th or 6th in the Tour de France. He wants to win this Alpine stage to the top of La Toussuire.
Well, by their own admission, Astana have had a thoroughly forgettable Tour de France. They've done absolutely nothing. Nothing's gone their way. And now Vincenzo Nibali, the man that won it for them last year and led for most of it, and the day he took yellow in Sheffield on the 2nd day of the Tour, then they're now thinking of a stage win first and maybe a podium in Paris. When you're defending your title and you stand on the podium, it will be seen as a fair defence, and he's closing in, and that will bring out the fight in Valverde also soon.
Yep. This man still getting down into that very good pedalling style of his. 1.3 kilometres for him now to go to the summit of the Col du Moulin. That's going to take him about 4 minutes, and then he's got some respite. It's around about a 12-kilometre descent down into Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, which is, funnily enough, where the race finished yesterday, and funny enough, where he started this morning, and that's quite a number of hours ago. And then he faces himself up to the final 18 kilometres of today's stage, and that's up here to the mountaintop finish in La Toussuire, which is the longest mountaintop finish of the Tour de France this year.
19 men have got themselves back into that yellow jersey group at the moment, sitting at 2 minutes 8 seconds. Nibali's found his rhythm now. He's only 32 seconds back, and he'll look to his left. He will see the leader on the road, and that's going to give him a little bit of a fillip as he tries to get round and up to him on this climb. 1 kilometre to go for Pierre Rolland.
Well, Pierre Rolland has got into his rhythm. He'll look at that sign and think, right, that's 1 kilometre, that's 3 minutes left to go to the top. But he will have, around this hairpin bend, looked down to his left and he will see the armada of cars that are following Vincenzo Nibali. He will realise he's about to get company this afternoon, because Nibali has the advantage of seeing the cars behind Pierre Rolland and the motorbikes, and he will use those to try and urge himself on that little bit more. It's almost as if you look at him here, as if his pedalling style, Phil, has become just that little bit more invigorated.
2:10 back to the peloton. They're both pulling away from yellow jersey. 36 kilometres to go. Nibali is closing in about 900 metres. The cars are being stopped now by the referees. It's going to be one chase the other towards the summit here. And Pierre Rolland is climbing up to the king of the mountain point. He knows he's coming.
Yep, Pierre Rolland is pretty well up in the overall standings in the King of the Mountains. He climbed up to 6th overall so far, but just looking across here, the Shark of Messina keeps looking across the hairpin bends here and studying and looking at his pedals to see the pedaling action. He's got his cadence nice and high. Further down the road, 2 minutes further down the road, is Chris Froome, and in fact they are getting a little bit of help this afternoon coming from Jose Herrada and Team Movistar, who now have got to defend the position of Valverde and Quintana.
So as they come up towards the summit now, there's going to be a big cheer for Pierre Rolland, but I think he's going to have company very soon afterwards. The concentration of Rolland. Nibali is closing. The latest check is 13 seconds behind him.
Well, you know, you're looking at a man who was 4th in overall in the Tour of Italy last year, looking at a man who's previously won the Tour of Italy. Oh, sticky bottle there, a little bit of an acceleration as he gets up towards the summit. Professional foul, but I'm sure the race referees didn't spot that as quickly as I did, and the gap between them every time he does that.
A lot of riders fine yesterday for those sticky bottle actions.
Every time he does that, he gains maybe 1 or 2 seconds. That's why the team manager has come up alongside him. Jose Herrada on the front here, Phil, are doing a phenomenal job. But all of a sudden, look at this. Now, if you want to put a little bit more suspense into this soup as well there, Phil, let's not forget Alejandro Valverde cracked on the big final climb yesterday, so I'm sure everybody paid close attention to that, including everyone else. Hello, mates, how are you? I've just come up to join you. This is the quick chat between the two of them. Let's collaborate.
He's saying, let's go together, and it looks as though Pierre Roland might be fancying his chances. There's a double action here now. It may not be a win for Vincenzo Nibali. If he can use the Frenchman to gain time, he'll give him the stage.
Well, isn't that funny, Phil? The second and third place French riders from the finish up to the summit in Monde a couple of days ago, going across the top of this mountain there, is in third and fourth place on the road.
Well, what a great Tour de France, and what a great 3 days so far we've had in these Alps, and there's one more to come tomorrow. So, looking down at the Grand Prix de la Montagne, what a great competition. Now, Bardet is doing all right. He's got a couple of points there. There's only 4 places rather, and 5 points for the win on that climb of the Col de Molor. But nonetheless, he snuck the third place, and the next points will be at the finish line at La Toussuire.
And those are big points as well, Phil, because those are doubled because it's the first category climb, and doubled because it's the finishing climb of the day. Now, this will, I think, be quite good for Pierre Roland. He'll be happy now to have some respite, to be able to sit on the wheel of Vincenzo Nibali. But both of these riders are around about the same caliber, about the same level. You're looking at a man who's finished 4th overall in the Giro d'Italia, and a man who's won it 50 kilometres an hour. Oh, wow, wow, wow.
Well, he went offline again, taking the inside before he sees the bend, and he looked down below him. He should come in a much wider angle than that to get round those corners.
Well, the problem is, Phil, as I said a little earlier, we were talking the comparison between motor racing drivers that go round the same corner over and over again.
Still know how to go round the corner, though.
They know how the corner is going to open up afterwards. These guys came into the corner expecting it to be in a certain way, then all of a sudden it got steeper as they came round the bend. They haven't had a chance to rehearse these corners.
Well, you don't in the TT in the Isle of Man either, and I must say that they're not descending like top bike riders here.
Well, I think in the TT in the Isle of Man, Phil, they have a lot of practicing on the same circuit for many days before they actually go out. Let's not forget, these guys have not seen this descent for maybe a month.
Let's have a look at the situation in the King of the Mountains. Roland got the 5, Nibali 3, Bardet 2, Pinot 1. And so overall it means that Bardet is building a lead today. He's now 6 points ahead of Rodriguez, and Froome is in third place, 8 points ahead, beg your pardon, of Rodriguez at the moment. Minute 51, these two will combine together here. A French winner maybe, and a man gaining a podium place in Paris. Well, that's a tempting thought.
Well, they've got 16 kilometres of descent, and then it's 18 kilometres up to the finish line. A little flick of the wrist there from Pierre Roland says, come on, mate, give me a little bit of a hand here. Halfway across the gap, Bardet.
He went as soon as he came over the top, and this is the reason, because he is a very good descender.
Now, you see how he got caught up by the same corner, Phil? I'm telling you, this corner is much sharper as the riders come out of it than they expect. They look at the lay of the land, they look at the trees, and it's caught a lot of riders out. And watch out for the main field when they come down there too. That's probably why the organisation had the straw bales there.
That's a good idea anyway. Bardet continuing to go down the hill here. He's the third rider on the road at the moment. Now, he's got a problem with his chain here. No, he's sorting it. Is he? No.
Yep.
He has a problem, and I think it's with the movement that puts the chain up and down that ring.
I think he's corrected it. Can't beat a good bang into sort out the mechanical. If you don't have a screwdriver at the point, just hit it as hard as you can. I think in the old days in England, Phil, they used to call that a Birmingham screwdriver, and it came in a 3-pound and a 5-pound size.
1 minute 47 for the chasers now. They've pulled back on the leader, but they'll now be a little bit concerned about the fact that Nibali has contacted the head of the field.
Chatting, you know,
I think he's got a problem.
He is trying to talk to the team car. Now, the big problem is yet the advent of race radio. Well, he's definitely got a problem here, Phil. Well, the problem, Phil, with race radios is the fact is that they're very, very small, the radios that these riders have, and as we heard a couple of days ago, the range on these radios is not very much. Now, he is alone just ahead of the yellow jersey group, and unfortunately,
it's definitely a problem with the gear mechanism, which changes the front chain wheel by the look of it.
Hold on, this one. You can actually hear it clicking, so the front derailleur has probably come out just a little bit too far, and it's actually touching the crank as he's pedaling.
Well, he's certainly, it's shut him right down from making a chase down here. This is really sad for Romain Bardet.
And the problem is, Phil, his team car is a long, long way behind him. He can't get past the yellow jersey group on this descent.
Well, if there is a neutral service up here, they might well send it back there to try and help him out. Now, this here is Kreuziger. And he's got a flat tyre, can you believe? He's got a back wheel flat there.
Yeah, he put his hand up there. He's indicating to the race referee, and just watch him going gingerly around these corners. He's got to try to keep riding as long as possible until the team car comes up alongside him, because that's the best way to get a quick wheel change.
So it's Sammy Sanchez here bringing the charge down. Got Talansky in there as well.
Yeah, he's got the golden shoes on, Olympic champion from 2008. He's also pretty good at going downhill. Right, back with the two leaders. Pierre Rolland being relayed by Vincenzo Nibali, champion of Italy. 28 kilometres to go. That's 10 kilometres of descent left for these two riders. Nibali just goes around. Here we're back with the third place rider on the road. He's got a mechanical problem at the moment, which he doesn't seem to be able to fix himself on the descent. It appears that the front derailleur keeps catching as he's pedalling on the cranks, and that is not a good sign. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can hear it every time he pedals, but there's nothing he can do. The team cars are so far behind him. They're behind Thibaut Pinot, who's behind him, and they're also behind the yellow jersey group, so there's not much he can do for the moment. Look at the way he goes around that corner. Perfect on this newly surfaced road of the descent, now down away from this penultimate climb of the day, the Col de Moulin, which was 1,600 meters in altitude. They will drop down very, very deeply down into the valley. Now he's got his hand up again. So they'll drop down to about 600 meters before they start the final climb. And he keeps putting his hand up. You know, it's a major problem here, Phil, and he's going to have to wait some time. And it's sad because he made the move at the right moment. As he looks back, he can see the yellow jersey group, and his team car is going to be behind that group.
Very, very sad indeed. And there's not much he can do about it, but it's definitely affecting his pedaling. I don't think it's connecting. Something's gone wrong with his front derailleur. Sanchez bringing down the chase group here, which we'll see him very shortly. Valverde, Talansky, Wout Poels, the yellow jersey, Quintana, they're all there. Contador. And Contador's lost so far for the moment his fourth place overall in the Tour de France.
Yeah, he started the day with about a minute and 20 seconds advantage over Vincenzo Nibali. So it's very, very close to 1:47. It's a hovering. I think that could you could see a reversal on that down towards the end. But I'm sure Vincenzo Nibali, first of all, is thinking about trying to get himself a stage victory. But the way he's riding, if Alejandro Valverde was to crack on the final climb of the day, then you could see Vincenzo Nibali, Phil, climbing up into a podium position.
Yeah, he needs just under 4 minutes gain to get onto the podium. At the moment, he's not getting that, but he still has tomorrow and the grand battle of Alpe d'Huez right to the finishing line tomorrow. Well, you've got to take your hat off to Bardet as well. This boy sticks to his guns, this youngster. Geraint Thomas timed at over 9 minutes behind now. Warren Barguil has lost 3. So he's about 2 minutes behind the Froome group just now, Barguil.
Well, Geraint Thomas had been riding at the front of this race right from the very start, and despite that very nasty crash that he had on the descent dropping down into Gap, he stayed in the race. He said he really didn't suffer too much, but I'm sure at the end of the day, when we get the true story coming out, there was some consequences to that very nasty crash when he crashed into the telegraph pole going down the descent into Gap. This guy here, he's definitely got a mechanical problem because he's not going as fast as we've seen him go downhill in the past. There's the yellow jersey group. They are about 10 or 15 seconds behind Romain Bardet. Bardet is going to have to sit up now and wait for this group to catch him because there's absolutely no chance that his team car is going to be able to overtake this group on the descent. And you have to hope, and probably because his team manager and the mechanics are in the car behind, they will actually be watching these images on live TV as well in the car, so they will know that he's got a mechanical problem, and the mechanic will be ready to get out of the car as quickly as possible and change his wheel, and change his bike, I should say, which is what they will do at this part of the race. And hopefully just keep trying to listen in there to see if we can hear what that problem is. He will theoretically get himself a very, very quick change. How about that for a beautiful backdrop? That's what the Alps are all about. Quite magical, the descent now away from the Col de Moulin. Wouter Poels, he really has had to dig deep this afternoon. He was on the back foot like every one of the riders in Team Sky. They pay for all of the efforts. And what do you have to try and understand with the riders from Team Sky, although they've not had to do a lot of hard chasing at the front, most of them have been riding day after day in the wind, protecting the position of Chris Froome, protecting Chris Froome from the wind, protecting Chris Froome from the accidents, pacing him to the front at critical moments. And at the end of the day, after 3 weeks of racing, that you have to pay for the consequences. Pierre Rolland around the next corner. These two guys, their advantage is still 1 minute and 50 seconds over the yellow jersey group.
Well, the word is that the team car is past Paul, hasn't contacted yet though, and I think by the look at it, it'll be a bike change for Bardet. You can hear the noise.
Yeah, there's absolutely, Phil, no way they can get past the yellow jersey group because there's only 20 seconds between the two. They're going downhill. The race referees will not let them go by currently. But the fact of the matter is that the team mechanic will have been watching the same images as we do because they can get live pictures in the car. The mechanic will be ready. The mechanic will be on the edge of his seat waiting to change the bike as soon as he can get up to his rider. And the bike theoretically should be on the left-hand side of the car, ready to do a quick change. Kilometres now to go to the summit of the final climb of today's stage. All of the toughness behind us. First climb of the day, Col de Chaussy, followed by the Col de la Croix de Fer, followed by the Col du Moulin, and now just one climb remaining. 18 kilometres to the summit of La Toussuire. What an amazing number of people who have turned out for this final 18 kilometres of today's stage.
18 kilometres, it's a steep climb in places, particularly towards the end. I'll tell you what, Paul, this is the chance now for Nibali to gain time. So as we look here, and there's a bike change on course at the moment as well, and this looks like Alberto Contador has had a problem.
Well, that was a very, very quick bike change. It seems as if everybody's changing their bikes at the moment because a few moments ago, Romain Bardet went through the same thing. Now, I wonder if this bike change here is to change to a lighter machine for the final climb of the day. It's different colour. He still wears number 41, but Alberto Contador.
It's not the first time Tinkoff Saxo have done this in a race. A quick bike change. We've seen it done with Peter Sagan as well.
This is the perfect place to do it because he knew that at this point there would be a slight slowing down in the main field. That didn't look like a moment of panic, Phil. The mechanic was ready. I think that was a planned strategy.
So do I. Now, as we watch here, this is the riders here now poised for the last climb. This is the green, the yellow jersey bunch of Chris Froome. Is Quintana ill, or is he going to attack as well on this climb? As they start the climb now, the Battle of La Toussuire is about to commence. And they've got a tailwind at the moment as they start this climb.
Theoretically, a tailwind, Phil, is what the climbers like. They can turn out that speed. Their attacks are not nullified by a headwind, and we'll find out whether or not Nairo Quintana has got the form today to create the difference. Currently, though, the situation is two leaders. Vincenzo Nibali, Pierre Rolland of France, trying to make it 2 days in a row that the French win. And look how quickly Alberto Contador came back behind the referee's car. His teammate there, Roman Krutiger, has slowed back a fraction, not because he's being dropped, because he wants to pace Alberto Contador back into the group.
Passing Matthias Frank, who got himself back to this group. He's now in trouble on the early slope up to the finish. Platz has gone back up there with the two boys from Tinkoff.
Look at the ease of this. You can see there Roman Krutiger just pacing himself up to the front of the group. Most of the big leaders are there.
Matthias Frank, who had a great ride yesterday, dropping off now. Contador has got himself back there. Great tempo riding by Movistar for the riders who sit second and third overall in the Tour de France. But Vincenzo Nibali is putting them under pressure now. They can't allow him much more time gain.
Jose Herrada on the front ahead of Alejandro Valverde. Wouter Poels there. You can see Chris Froome. There's the white jersey of Nairo Quintana. His face is telling us nothing at all. Just as you can see, Ruben Plaza popping off the back. Andrew Talansky there, 161 in the lime green jersey of Cannondale Garmin. He's comfortably sitting onto the back. Contador, though, has still got 2 teammates in this group, and he is just hovering there, and I think on a lighter bike for this finish.
Valverde in second wheel. Poles has gone forward, and Chris Froome is having trouble following his teammate just there. The gap opened up.
Well, the gap, though, between the 2 leaders, Phil, as we get to the 9% gradient here, is still hovering at 1 minute and 45 seconds. You can see that Vincenzo Nibali is turning beautifully his pedal stroke there, and nice and supple, a high cadence for him in the ideal gear, but he realises that at 16 kilometres to go to the finish, he's still probably looking at about 45 to 48 minutes of climbing.
Well, Plata here, remember that this morning, Nairo Quintana said he had a 10% chance approximately. He says we're going to wait until the final climb and see if we can try to attack Froome then. That's what he said before the start this morning. Well, now we're on the final climb, and he sat there on the wheel of Chris Froome.
Well, you know, you've got to be very careful the information you get from team managers at this critical part of the race. The fact of the matter is, Phil, if you look at that group, on the front you've got Jose Herrada, Team Movistar. In second position you've got Alejandro Valverde, Team Movistar. They wouldn't be riding like that if Quintana hadn't given them the nod to say, I don't feel too bad on today's stage.
Well, also he's gone at 16 kilometres to go to the summit, and Nibali now has got legs to fly, and when this message gets back to the group chasing, they are going to have to do something about it, because Pierre Rolland looks to have hit the wall.
Well, I think this move is almost certainly going to lay down the foundations for a climb up into 4th place overall tonight. It's a little bit too much to think about dethroning Alejandro Valverde unless the Spanish national champion has a bad day and cracks towards the top of this climb, but there's still an awful long climb up to the finish.
Well, it's not about a podium place tonight, it's about gaining time to finish it off tomorrow on the road to Alpe d'Huez. There's another day to come before this tour goes to Paris.
Well, Rolland, he's been a winner in Alpe d'Huez, which is just over the top of the mountains away from where we are here before. He's been a winner at the top of this climb back in 2012, and now all of a sudden he's come up against the Italian national champion, who had almost done nothing at all until we came up to the start of the Tour de France, and a week before the start of the Tour, he won the Italian national championships.
This is the Battle of La Toussuire, and the man leading them up it right now is last year's winner of the Tour de France, Nibali. There he goes. Contador guessing the man to start it. Quintana looks across, sees Contador, sees his captain Valverde is there. Froome is locked in, but this isn't an attack.
Well, Mike, I think it was just a little dummy attack by Robert Hessing there, and Mike just responding and whipping up the pace a little bit more. He's a very strong rider. Let's not forget the rider on the front is he's actually putting a daylight between himself and Robert Hessing, who tried to make a move there. Now there's a move around the outside for Quintana.
Well, this is what he said he would do. We didn't know whether he was sick or not. Quintana is now looking, he can only gain seconds, but the acceleration has to come from Froome, because Quintana is the one man he doesn't want to give any time to, because tomorrow on Alpe d'Huez, who knows what will happen. Froome has reacted.
This man is not sick. He's been sitting in the shadows all day, just waiting, biding his time patiently to hit Chris Froome at this point.
5 kilometres to go for the man who's alone in the lead. The gap has come down to 2:04. The man in white, who last time he rode the Tour de France, finished second to Froome. There's the attack.
Yeah, but watch out how Chris Froome has responded. Right onto his wheel is Alberto Contador. Contador sitting there behind Chris Froome, and Contador is Alejandro Valverde. The Frenchman, Romain Bardet, is trying to stay in contact, but the big guns now, the salvos, are beginning to fire.
Froome was very alert there. He had to dodge round the slowing Rafael Majka, got round him very quickly, and here's the result. He's going back up to Quintana with Contador and Valverde. Wow, the top 4 riders in the Tour de France are going head-to-head again.
Well, I had thought that Alejandro Valverde was not having one of his better days. He struggled yesterday. Now Bardet has been left behind. Robert Hessing has been left behind. Thibaut Pinot, Bauke Mollema. These guys, if you like, these are the second string. But again, there's another little kick coming from Nairo Quintana. This guy is a magical climber from Boyacá in Colombia. He's not even concerned, Phil, about altitude.
Well, it doesn't look to me as though those two are going to do much about it, because Froome has left them both behind. He's going after Quintana on his own. Contador has cracked, Valverde has cracked. Suddenly the race has become a battle of two men, and can he stop him gaining any time at all?
Well, bear in mind, put it into perspective, Quintana's been waiting for this climb. There's a long way still to go, Phil, on a mountain stage like this at 4.5 kilometres remaining. Quintana is 3 minutes and 10 seconds behind Chris Froome in the overall standings. Froome knows this climb. He knows he finished third place on this climb way back in 2012 when he was a teammate of Bradley Wiggins. Bradley Wiggins went on to win that tour. But now for Froome, it's a question of riding for himself, riding in defence of his overall lead.
He's only got to limit his losses. He doesn't have to get alongside Quintana, but it would be a nice psychological blow if Quintana did gain a few seconds. As the gap now continues, they're closing to 1 minute 50 on the man up front. Chris Froome has watched his team fall around him all day, and now he's got to do it himself. But hey, if you're the leader of the team, this is when you prove it.
Well, the time comes when you're the leader of the Tour de France, when you have to take a responsibility. The time gaps at the start of the day was 3 minutes and 10 seconds back to Nairo Quintana, 4:09 to Alejandro Valverde. Geraint Thomas, he's disappeared today. He was in 4th at the start of the day, and Alberto Contador was at 6 minutes and 40 seconds.
Well, they get 3 small time bonuses when they cross the line of 10 seconds, 6 seconds and 4 seconds. At one moment it looked as though it would have been good for Nibali, and he might have got 3rd overall, but right now he's still gaining time on Valverde. Well, it looks at the moment as though the reaction from Froome is not having an effect.
Well, it's 11 seconds the difference between Quintana and Froome, and now Robert Hessinker now tries to pull himself further up in the overall standing. He still has had, even though he's been left behind by Quintana and Froome, Robert Hessinker still had a brilliant Tour de France this year for the Dutchman.
Well, that just proves that Valverde has had enough of this Tour de France. So too Alberto Contador. They've been picked up by the others. This rider is gaining time, remember, and he's still looking forward to a good finish here. It's only Quintana who's closing on him, and Quintana is already ahead of him, so he's not worried. And now where is Chris Froome? Chris Froome still revs his bike up and just hopes he's going away at the moment.
Well, bear in mind, Phil, Chris Froome against Nairo Quintana in the 2013 Tour de France. Down towards the end, he lost time on the final mountain stage. There's another mountain stage to go tomorrow. The gap between Froome and Quintana has now been prized up to 15 seconds. Well, it's come down to 12.
Well,
what Chris Froome said to us this morning, it's not about trying to win the stage, because there's another day to come up to the summit of Alpe d'Huez. He knows he's on the defensive, but we're looking here at 22 seconds. In real respect, it's not all of that much of a panic for Chris Froome as he goes under 2 kilometres to go. He just needs to limit his losses in a moment like this.
21 seconds now. This is a day the robot became human. It's all about hurting yourself now to win the Tour de France, not counting the power output and how many watts you're sending down the line. And this man finally, after 2.5 weeks of trying, has rid himself of Chris Froome. But has he rid himself with enough time?
Well, you know, when you've got this man's ability, you've just got to keep that cards close to your chest until the right moment to put them on the table. He's put them all on the table here this afternoon, but the question is, you're right, Phil, what is the gap going to be? He was looking to try and bridge 3 minutes and 10 seconds. That's an awful lot to bridge on the slopes of a mountain in the modern era of cycling, but he's done what he knew he had to do this afternoon, and as soon as he starts to cross the line, we'll have to start the clock to see what are his time gains over the man who leads this race today.
He hits the line 44 seconds after Vincenzo Nibali. The clock is now running on the loss of the Maillot Jaune. He's had a real good last couple of kilometres. He's fought his way back. He hasn't lost that much, but he has lost time. He's lost at the moment 36 seconds, 37 and counting. Froome is running up towards the line. Well, he's made a very interesting day tomorrow on the last day in the Alps for the Tour de France. And this has been a super tour, and it's not over yet. about 29-30 seconds.
29 to 30 seconds, and that will bring Nairo Quintana up to 2 minutes and 40 seconds behind Chris Froome in the overall standings. But Phil, let's not forget, tomorrow is still another mountaintop finish. Further down the slopes, Alejandro Valverde is trying to hold on to his third place in the overall standings. He's got to ride his heart out now, right the way up to the finishing line.
Can't afford not to, otherwise he'll lose his third place overall, and he's driving the race with Contador. I think Contador might have lost his fourth place overall to Nibali in this race, as they've just used all the energy they've got left. And as I said, it's not the time to remind them. They do it all again tomorrow and finish on Alpe d'Huez. And I don't know how much strength they've got left.
Valverde opens up the gas just a fraction there. He's going to get challenged on the line by Thibaut Pinot, who comes across the line for, well, he doesn't. He's got to come around the corner. Valverde will sprint for pride here if he can, as they throw themselves into the chicane. Romain Bardet is on the wheel of Alejandro Valverde. Bauke Mollema just behind him, and Alberto Contador just a little bit adrift, but in the group as they come up. Thibaut Pinot looks across. Fourth for him, fifth for Bardet. Well, and just slipping across the line now, they're probably the hero of the day for France, and that is Pierre Rolland. Looking deep down there into the valley, a little bit further down. The French doing a phenomenal ride today to try and get themselves the victory, but it's a day that belongs to Italy. And with the Italian flag around his chest there, Vincenzo Nibali gets the victory that he has been looking for, and we're going to have to see. I make it 2 minutes and 38 seconds back to Nairo Quintana in the overall standings, but that was the first time we saw any weakness coming from Chris Froome.
Well, he waited till the 19th day of this year's Tour de France to appear at the front, and there he is. He absolutely gave a display which was well planned and well put in, and ahead of Quintana, Froome, Pinot and Bardet.
I'm impressed with Sammy Sanchez there. Phil, he should keep his place so high up, and Pierre Rolland, I think, has moved up into the top 10 in the overall standings, which will see him just sitting right on the wheel of Romain Bardet. But that was a very impressive performance. At 2.5 minutes almost, he put between himself and the rest of the riders who were originally in the yellow jersey group. But what a great move he made. Nairo Quintana, well, we expected him to make the move on this final climb of the day, and he certainly did not let us down. He will certainly be walking away with the best young rider competition, and he's solidifying his place in second overall ahead of his teammate Valverde. Now is down to 5 minutes and 25 seconds behind Chris Froome. Froome only has one man to look at tomorrow, Phil, and that's this man. Yeah, Kreuziger. Bit of a giggle there as he throws his bike for the line to get himself the place ahead of Michele Scarponi, Gautier, and of course I have to say what a brilliant job of work, Phil, done today by Stefan Kruijswijk, the rider from Lotto Jumbo, another youngster from that squad who could have a very good future ahead of him in the great Grand Tours. Chris Froome now 2 minutes and 38 seconds ahead of Nairo Quintana. Valverde at 5:25. Hessink holds on to 6th place. That was the place that he had at the start of the day. Matthias Frank, in fact, improving on today's stage from 8th into 7th. Bauke Mollema climbing up from 9th into 8th, and Bardet peeping inside of the top 10 now as 9th. And Pierre Rolland made a big operation on the day to climb up into 10th.
For how long though? Contador, I suspected all week he wasn't happy. He might be tired from his victory in the Tour of Italy.
Well, Phil, it's so very difficult at this level of the sport nowadays to be able to ride the Tour of Italy to win and then come back and try and win the Tour de France to win. That's why Chris Froome did not ride the Tour of Italy this year. He's concentrated specifically on being ready for the month of July.
January today.
Concentrating, puffing, blowing,
Okay,
living
so
here.
this
What he
year,
can do
so
best,
far,
counting his revs,
I
looking
have
at his
done
power output, and just
2,043
getting on with his own job. He's not racing
So far
anybody,
this year,
he's racing himself
2026,
right now, Chris Froome.
I have done 2,043 kilometres.
Concentrated there,
As
Phil.
of now,
You just saw him give the
27th
nod
of
to the
January.
spectator at the side of the road. He wanted cold water
It
poured
was
over himself,
83%
just to
more
wake
than the
himself
same
up a
time
little bit.
last
The heat
year.
sometimes tends to put you a little bit to sleep,
So,
and so that cold water
last year,
on the back of the neck is a
2025,
bit of a shock.
Well,
I
look,
had
it's a double
ridden
now, Paul. 232 from the yellow to
1,113.7
Nibali, 111 to
K.
Contador, and only Van Gogh almost heading out to him, and only
By
Quintana has
mistake
control
last
of
year.
Chris Froome.
Well, for Vincenzo
And then
Nibali,
this year,
second position there with the Italian flag around his waist,
So
it's a question
83%
of
more.
survival. He's got some good company as well, Rigoberto
If I
Urán. But you see,
go to my
TJ Van Garderen
elevation,
really keeps recovering. He really
okay,
he
so
hasn't got the
far this
change in
year,
speed like a
I
climber
have
as
climbed
Robert Hessing. But once he gets his diesel engine going, he can crawl
707
his way
metres.
back. But this man
That's
is
36
amazing.
miles, so 36,707 metres. Compared to the same time last year, which was 28,700 metres.
Watch the crowds, they spot the yellow jersey
So
climbing up
20%
here,
more.
the man of the great tour winners, winning the big stages that count, looking for
doing
5 kilometres to
53%
go,
more
and by
time on the
tonight
bike,
Chris
so
Froome will be
75
over a
hours.
minute ahead of the second man
Compared
on
to,
the race.
let's see now, 49 hours
Today,
last
big
year.
time.
I've
3
also done
kilometres to
81
go. This is
activities
the
on the
next
bike this
group
year
on the
so
road
far,
with Geraint Thomas in it, Pierre Roland at the
compared
back
to
of
52 last
Valverde.
year.
Well, Alejandro Valverde, he won't give TJ
So,
Van Garderen any assistance at all. For
hopefully I
Pierre
don't
Roland,
burn
well,
out.
it's a question of they tried this afternoon.
2 kilometres to go for Chris Froome now. It gets a little bit easier and then he'll kick again. You'll see what he's heading to very shortly. Every pedal rev is gaining time. Is he putting enough on the table to say he can win the Tour de France now?
Well,
It's still a week and a
right.
half from Paris.
And then there's that, one of the blades right. I need to jump on
This
this.
popular Colombian, they're trying to drive him on here. The waters part.
Finally, a little bit of respite from the noise of Nairo Quintana, but no respite from the effort. He's still got to keep racing. He's still got to keep the pressure on to try and limit his losses as he comes over the final kilometre or so.
Well, everybody individually has feared Froome. Now we know why. He's dictating the Tour de France to them today, but you know, the Tour is a strange animal, and bodies change over the next week and a half in the mountains. It's a very mountainous Tour from now on. Great today, maybe not so great tomorrow. Quintana is rather hoping that might be the case.
Well, Richie Porte is still recovering according to Race Radio. It's very difficult once you get into the mountains and the race is split up so dramatically to find out where everybody is. But who would ever have thought that a kid that grew up in Nairobi, in Kikuyu, and started riding about with a bike with David Kinja would be dominating the Tour de France quite like this in the Pyrenees?
Well, here is Richie Porte here as he fights for another high position for himself in the Tour de France now. He's got Quintana, he's got sights, and he's got time to make this a Sky 1-2 at the summit of the first big challenge of this year's Tour. Closing in, Richie Porte, the Tasmanian rider. There's the 1 kilometre kite, and Chris Froome goes under it with a comfortable lead.
And still, Phil, it's the same cadence, the high pedalling cadence that Chris Froome has developed over the last few years. People have wondered about it. It's a very strange pedalling style, maybe not the most beautiful style in the world when it comes to the aficionados who like to see a smooth pedalling action, but I tell you what, it's extremely efficient for Chris Froome.
And what about Porte here? He's being drawn to Quintana like a magnet. He's just going to try and nip him on the line. Meanwhile, Chris Froome still in all sorts of pain. Pain that he wants to feel because he knows with every pedal rev, he adds another second to his overall lead in the Tour de France. He's looking for his 5th ever stage win, of course. He's won the Tour as well. And it looks to me as though Geraint Thomas is chasing anything from this next group.
Yes, that acceleration was Pierre Roland. The fact of the matter is that this group had slowed down a fraction because Tony Gallopin had recovered.
Well, our camera foreshortens the length, but I don't know how far we'd say that was, but he's very close, a kilometre to go, to catching up with Quintana. Froome, meanwhile, is ready to salute the crowd here. He's won on the Planche des Belles Filles in Axter, Trois-Domaines, Mont Ventoux. He won the Time Trial at Shorts in the past. It's another mountaintop victory for this incredible bike rider. And now, who is to beat him in this year's Tour de France? It must be an incredible feeling at 500 metres. And the crowd barriered safely back to a place where we've never been before. And look at this too. Quintana was supposed to win today for his team. He might not finish second.
Well, I wonder whether or not Richie Port, number 35 there, signed his contract, because I think he'll be increasing his value with a ride like this today.
Well, it could be an incredible demonstration by Team Sky here. As he comes around the corner, 300 metres to go, Chris Froome, the winner of the Tour de France in 2013. He celebrates a 4th day in the Maillot Jaune. He also wore it early on for a day. And now he dances all the way to the summit of the La Pierre Saint-Martin. And when we see the time gaps later on, we're going to ask ourselves, is there anybody now can beat him in this year's Tour de France? 100 metres to go. Froome has conquered, literally, the sky's the limit now for him as he comes up this climb of Saint-Martin. It's for Tour's first ever visit, and it's won by the leader of the Tour de France in yellow. And boy, it's going to be a big lead tonight. No longer will it be just 12 seconds. Now is Richie Port going to jump Nairo Quintana?
Well,
Can he jump Nairo Quintana?
The question is if he wants to jump him or not, but maybe for a psychological blow to Nairo Quintana, who everybody was expecting to be the winner at the top of this climb here today. Well, Nairo Quintana, now number 51, has been put on the back.
Here he goes.
Richie Port goes.
Here he goes. There's a 6-second bonus for second, a 4-second for third. They're not going to give him anything, the Sky team. They've even taken a 2-second bonus off him there, as Richie Port will be delighted with this. Now, Richie has said he is leaving Team Sky at the end of the year. He won't say to whom, but it's to Team BMC, the USA squad, because he wants to win for himself. Well, today, he's finishing second to his team leader, Chris Froome.
Well, funnily enough there, Phil, as this man crosses the line in second position, he will be in second position at the end of the day in the King of the Mountains competition, so he will more than likely be the wearer of that tomorrow, because Froome has certainly got yellow.
The white jersey, yes, it could now stay for sure on the shoulders of Quintana, as Robert Gessing has survived a great day for him. It really has. He took the race to them. He didn't quite work out, but he's hung on well here.
Well, he certainly has. A great performance by Robert Gessing, and look at how much effort he's putting in just to getting up to the line. He's going to climb up in the standings at the end of today.
You'll see this is a brilliant day in the Tour de France. Gessing, that's the 4th man over the line. Now here comes the group of Valverde, who tried to soften up the Sky Boys, didn't quite work out. In the distance is TJ Van Garderen. It looks as though Yates is going to have a dig here.
Yeah, but look at Valverde there, and Geraint Thomas just sitting on the wheel of Alejandro Valverde. Valverde is the man who tried to set all of this up in the early part of the day.
Well, this is
backfired on him a
5th
fraction.
place, and I don't think Geraint Thomas even tried to beat Valverde there, just tapped him on the back and said, well done. Sky have had an unbelievable day, because I think they'll be in the lead in the team race now.
Brilliant day, just looking round the corner. This is an impressive ride too. This is Tony Galopin coming up to the line. I'm impressed by this young man as well, a wearer of the yellow jersey. And there is TJ Van Garderen, a little bit further back with the yellow helmet, who started the day in second place overall.
TJ Van Garderen is home. He's been in a real battle today, but he'll live to fight another day. And Contador, he's lost time. He did not expect to lose. Big question mark now on Alberto Contador.
Yeah, those legs look like they're buckling a fraction. He's really trying everything just to limit his losses, but when he looks at the clock at the end of today, he's going to see 2 minutes and 50 seconds lost. That is a huge chunk of time for Alberto Contador. And another man who's going to have lost a huge chunk of time at the end of the day, of course, is going to be Vincenzo Nibali, because Nibali has still got to get up here to the line. Rafael Valls comes in there just ahead of Jakob Fuglsang. Oh, there's a nice little move here as well, because that's a good finish there coming. That was Warren Barguil in second position. And here is the man that everybody thought would be one of the big favourites this year. Well, at the end of the day, I think he's going to have to really think about what is going to happen, because a little bit down the road there, still a long way to get to the finish for Vincenzo Nibali.
Well, I'll tell you what, when they look at all the time gaps and changes on the classification today, it's going to be a very different classification. And this is only the first day in the mountains, and the only real hill was this climb up to the finish. Here comes Vincenzo Nibali, and he's conceded over 4 minutes today when he gets to the finishing line. It's still a little bit of a ride, so it's been a total disaster. Lawrence Tendam is with him at the back as well. Two more days in the high Pyrenees, my goodness me. Tomorrow we finish at Cotteret, having crossed the Col d'Aspin. In 2 days' time we finish at the Plateau de Baille. Let's have a look at the result first. Froome at 59 seconds, Quintana 64, Hessing in 4th place, Valverde 5th, Geraint Thomas did well to hold on to 6th place. Adam Yates crosses the line in 7th. Pierre Rolland did a good ride for him today, he's on his way back in 8th. Galopin, the only man to stop Vincenzo Nibali, leading all the way after his lead in Sheffield last year. He's come home in 9th. There's the face of Chris Froome as he comes over the line. It's pain, yes, but it's the good feeling of pain because he knows he's made so much time over everybody in the Tour de France.
It's not even a question of the victory this afternoon, Phil. It is a question of the time. His teammate Richie Porte, well, he won't be a threat because Richie Porte's lost a huge amount of time. But I think from a morale point of view, that will be a great move there for Richie Porte.
Well, we've not been to this finish line before. We've been in the region here, but we've never come to the finish line at La Pierre-Saint-Martin. And what a climb it turned out to be because the riders hit it so hard and that played right into the hands of Chris Froome. They started it, he finished it.
Well, there was a little Swahili sign just about 2 or 3 kilometres to go, and it just reminds me as we look there at Chris Froome of another Swahili expression which says Imara como Simba, as strong as a lion.
Look at this, Paul, the overall standings. Van Garderen is still second, but at 2 minutes 52, not 12 seconds. Quintana is in 3rd place now, and he will keep the white jersey. Valverde is in 4th place. Thomas is up to 5th. Contador is in 6th place. He actually drops 1 place.
Yeah, there's some massive time gaps at the end of today's stage, and we've still got 2 more Pyrenean stages to go. There is rider Hagedal, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, coming up for Cannondale Garmin, and there is Romain Bardet, the 2nd place rider from AG2R. He hasn't had a great day.
Can you just change the... yeah, that'll do.
The strongest rider, technical, and some of the corners set up into the bottom of a climb, and so you can lose a guy off the bottom out of the bottom of the climb that way.
Team NetApp 20K in. They were the first team to start today. They're a German pro-continental team, taking their first Grand Tour stage win. It is their debut at the Vuelta this year. They received a wildcard invitation to the race.
Now, one of the things I like about that NetApp team, Peter, is that they ride aggressively. They not only go for stages, but they go for GC as well. So they're a dynamic squad, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and it's great to have them in this year's Vuelta. And now we're back here to the Spanish Caja Rural team. You know, it's always good to be a home country team. You get a little bit more TV time.
Taking a look at the recent team time trial performances that might give us an indication of how things will shake out today. At the Tour, you had Orica, Green Edge, and then it was Omega Pharma 1 second behind, followed by Team Sky. At last year's World Championships, it was Omega Pharma, and then BMC came in second, and Orica was 3rd on the podium.
Yeah, and the Orica guys, they're not feeling quite so frisky today. I spoke with their director, Neil Stevens, just about an hour and a half ago, and they've got a little bit of a younger team and a little bit of a team with less speed in it here. So he's thinking more like 5th to 10th for him and his team today.
7th team to start, Vacan Soleil. Leo Westra, number 219 for Vacan Soleil. One of their top riders.
And this is one of those teams that is losing its title sponsor at the end of the season. And this Dutch team has been a very aggressive team over the last handful of years. As it's a fairly young team, but they will animate the race here over the next 3 weeks.
Westra, the 30-year-old Dutch rider, he's the reigning and 2-time Dutch national time trialing champion. many of the riders, we might as well bring it up now, go use the Vuelta for their preparation for the World Championships coming up in September. And also guys like the Cancellate riders, they're riding for a contract for next year.
Indeed they are. There's no doubt, Peter, that there is a lot riding on these guys' shoulders. It's not just here in this race, but it's a lot of guys. It's for their future. And most of the guys who are doing the Worlds will usually come through the Vuelta, but we don't always see that. Okay, look at this, BMC at the same time as Orica Green Edge. And now we still see the NetApp guys 2 seconds back, but they're now dropped down to third.
BMC led by the reigning world champion Philippe Gilbert, yet to win a race this year wearing the rainbow jersey.
Well, and let's put that into a little bit of context. Philippe was a prolific winner a couple of seasons ago, but last year he struggled a bit. He didn't get his first win until a stage of the Vuelta, and then he went on and won the World. So, yeah, he's got a lot of expectations on his shoulders, but I'll tell you what, if I won a stage of the Vuelta or two and won the Worlds again, that'd be a pretty good year.
The last 12 world champions all competed at the Vuelta, so it comes up in discussions. Is the Vuelta a good springboard for the World Championships? I think that stat proves that, yes, it is. Now, in today's team time trial, it is the 5th rider across the line that gives each team its official time.
Right, so if there are 4 guys that drop the 5th guy, those 4 guys don't get their time until the 5th guy goes across. Now, if you're dropped and you're off the back of the group, well, then you actually get your actual time. But for the team, it's the time of the 5th rider, so they have to use their guys carefully. You don't want to shed a bunch of guys on that first climb, and then you have so many fewer guys later on to work and get the rest with.
Yeah, we saw Lambre in their pink jerseys on the boat ride. That was Michele Scarponi, the 33-year-old Italian. He is their leading GC contender. Here is Orica Green Edge. So a little bit off the pace, set by Team NetApp.
Orica looked like it was down a rider there. I don't know that I noticed the full 9, and I have not yet heard if, in fact, they did lose somebody.
Baden Cook, I think, was dropped early on in the opening kilometers. So the veteran Baden Cook, I believe he's making his Vuelta debut here.
Well, Baden never likes climbing, and that's a fairly sharp little rise at the start of the bike race as the Lambre guys heading out onto the water. And actually, Baden Cook just coming back to Spain from racing the Tour of Utah, where his teammate Michael Matthews was a prolific winner.
Well, you gotta hope none of these guys get seasick sitting out there on that barge. Now, you've got the nerves of starting a Grand Tour, the final one of the year, and now you gotta sit on this boat. It certainly spices up the start to this year's race.
Indeed it does for the guys. You know, these big races, Peter, they're always looking for ways to showcase and highlight local culture, local business, local scenery, whatever it is. And so, as you mentioned, they're using something here that is part of the local, business industry.
Next up, Omega Pharma Quick Step, one of the better team time trialing groups in the peloton. They are the reigning world champions and nearly won the team time trial at the Tour. They're 1 second back.
This team should have a very solid ride as they put a fair amount of focus and attention into the team time trial discipline. Tony Martin in here, and he will be a guy taking some massive turns on the front as he tests himself prior to the World Championships, where he would like to win that event yet again. But boy, the Worlds are going to be loaded with competition in the time trial this year, with Cancellara really targeting it, Bradley Wiggins, as well as Taylor Phinney. We may have a time trial at the World Championships for the ages this year.
Yeah, Tony Martin, the 28-year-old German, he has won the last 2 time trial World Championships, has been nearly unbeatable in individual time trials this year. He did lose the second one of the Tour this year. Had a bit of a climb in it. It's not really a climb.
Yeah, he's not a real fan of time trialing uphill, but sometimes he goes amazingly well uphill. So I think he maybe also had a little bit of an off day, finishing 27th in that final time trial at the Tour de France earlier this year.
Lambre getting ready for their tour. At the start, stage 1 continues. We saw the time there, just over 30 minutes for Team NetApp, again making their debut at the Vuelta. Here is Omega Pharma on course. Their running time on the lower right-hand portion of your screen. They're the reigning world champions, and again, I think they have probably the best time trialist in the world in Tony Martin. He has been simply unbeatable this year.
Yeah, look at who's on the front. Tony Martin, number 161, the big guy who has a very slippery position. He's really flexible, he can provide good power, and he handles his bike well when he's in a really radical time trial position.
Zdeněk Štibar, the 27-year-old Czech, also riding for Omega Pharma, won the recent Eneco Tour that you and I got to call last weekend.
He was impressive in that race, I have to say. So this here, for people wondering what's going on, the UCI measures every single bike. They have a jig, which actually we'll show people a little bit later on in our coverage during stage 11, the individual time trial, where they just make sure that their handlebars, the relationship between their handlebars, their saddle, and is within regulation.
Looking at BMC, one of their riders slipping back, perhaps having done his work for the day. So Team NetApp still at that juncture had the time to beat. And the finish for Orica Green Edge, you can tell that there is a bit of a downhill at the tourist town of San Sancho, also on the Atlantic coast. And they are about 10 seconds behind. Bit of a disappointment for Orica Green Edge unless Team NetApp has put in a phenomenal time today.
Well, Orca, as I said, Neil Stevens telling me earlier that he was just hoping for a respectable ride in the top 10. He didn't think this team was really capable of a podium spot unless things really went well. But one thing I did notice at the finish line there was how stiffly the flag was blowing out of the rider's left. And you can see it here as well. There's a fair bit of wind on this course, predominantly tailwind, but as they twist and turn, it becomes a crosswind. And with the very technical nature of these riders riding super close together in the team time trial, if you come into a corner and a gust all of a sudden comes from a different side, it can blow one rider into another on these time trial bikes and cause crashes. And we see that often. It's a really dicey discipline on the road.
168, Guillaume van Kiersbulk had a nice run up a couple days there last weekend at the Eneco Tour. Gianni Mearsman for Omega, another one of their top sprinters. Won a couple stages, the first two at the Volta a Catalunya earlier in this spring. Now AG2 are on course, and their young Colombian, Carlos Bentancur, the 23-year-old, he is the young man to watch for this team. He has had an amazing year, Todd, 5th at the Giro, and won the youth classification.
Yeah, just impressive what the Colombians are doing right now. And Bentancur, one of the things I really like about him is he's a visible guy. He's not a guy that just follows wheels and you say, wow, he got 5th place overall. He's a guy that you see attacking and going for stage wins and really animating and lighting up the courses. He's also got an Italian on this team. It's quite interesting that it's a French team with a Colombian who's one of their stars and an Italian, Domenico Pozzovivo, another one of their stars, and the team is saying that Bentancur is here maybe more for stages than for the GC, and Pozzovivo is in Spain for the GC. But you know, that always can change out on the road.
And that may be Baden Cook coming in, no?
Yeah, I believe that is, as he got dropped a little bit earlier. Now he still has to get to the finish line before the time cut would eliminate him from the race, and actually doesn't look like Baden Cook to me, but regardless, it is one of the Orica men. So they lost several guys before the finish, and it can be pretty hard to pick out their face with the TT helmet on and all of the gear, especially the time trial helmet. It really covers up the face.
Team Sky waiting for their moment to get onto the bars to take them out to the starting pontoon.
That is the Belarusian Vasil Kiryenka there, the man who is the big diesel on that team, and he does so much work for them. So if you notice their handlebars, the extensions, that's one of the things that jig was measuring earlier. they can't be, your hands can't be up super high. They have to more or less, your forearms more or less have to be parallel to the ground. So that's one of the regulations. The other regulation is how far behind the bottom bracket the front of the saddle has to be, because the further you move it forward, the more aero you are. But they won't let you go like they do in a triathlon. They won't let you go too far forward. And also the overall reach is regulated. So there are a bunch of things that the officials look at on these time trial bikes.
Back out on course, this is Omega Pharma. The first part of this course, you can see one of the teammates also tried to signal with the arm, but you're not going to have the wind here, Todd, on this first portion of the team time trial, because you have these windy, twisty turns throughout the town. You don't have those winds on the Atlantic yet.
Yeah, and one of the things I just want to mention, you saw these riders gesticulating here as they're coming into these chicanes with the cobbles and everything. The technical nature of this course, I cannot really give enough credit to. When you watch how good they are here as the Movistar team is coming into the split. Oh no, this is Caharal, excuse me. And looked like they were fourth best at that point. But the technical nature of this discipline on a course like this with a predominantly tailwind course really fast, it's going to make it really tough.
Well, that will clearly give you an indication of just how windy it is here on the Atlantic. And just what a beautiful bucolic scene here for the start of the Vuelta. Have you ever been in a race with a start like that, as this is Team Argos?
No, and look, they only have 5 guys, so they used up all their guys coming into the finale. And they're sitting in the 3rd spot as they come to the line.
And Team Argos with the youngest team here at the Vuelta. Team NetApp still with the time to beat a 30.34, and Team Argos crosses the line over a minute back. And so you're starting on a pontoon, and then you've got a team time trial where it's not some flat sprinter stage time where some GC guys can, lose some time on stage 1 as Team Saxo Tinkoff is underway, and they will be losing the Tinkoff to their team at the end of this year.
One of the things I just noticed was the speed of the Orica guys that just came across the line. 51.6 kilometers an hour with climbing. That's 32 miles an hour. So it gives you an idea how fast they're going when they're not going uphill. And they were a minute down on the NetApp team.
We did not get to see the Team Argos Shimano start. We brought in our live coverage at the start for the BMC team. They were the 4th team to start. So Team NetApp, Orca, and Argos started before we came on live. And so for Team Argos, their average age under 25 years old, right around 25. Radio Shack, the oldest team. And so perhaps a bit of youth on display, Todd, with a team that's got some nice young legs, but boy, they put themselves in a bit of a hole here.
Yeah, well, it's the way it goes, as their director Neil Stevens was saying. 5th to 10th was their goal. It's still amazing, 32 miles an hour for those guys, and being a minute behind the NetApp team. And NetApp not even favored to win this thing. There should be some teams that are much quicker, and one of those right here is the Omega Pharma Quick-Step team. This squad should set a very good pace.
Final 4 riders for Argos coming to the finish line.
And notice the man on the front there just signaling to his teammates that the corner is in front of them, as they just want to make sure at this point they get across the finish line in one piece.
Yeah, their average age just over 25 years. They've got no Marcel Kidder or John Degenkolb. 4 Team Argos here at the Vuelta. Team Sky getting onto the boat. Not going fishing today. What goes through your mind when you were racing and you were starting a 3-week or a 1-week stage race?
Well, if you're a Team Sky team, you are here for the general classification. If you're a BMC team, you're definitely here with Pinotti, the multiple-time Italian national champion, leading through. And they want to try and win this stage, but they end up in second by 1 second to NetApp.
Just off of the pace, BMC, 30.35. So Team NetApp, through the first 4 teams, has the time to beat. They're a pro-continental team, perhaps coming into this debut Vuelta with a bit of a chip on their shoulder.
Well, certainly the BMC team wanted to try and win this team time trial. They knew it was going to be hard, but I don't think they ever thought coming in that the NetApp Endura team would be 1 second ahead of them at the finish line.
Well, no Taylor Finney for the BMC team. It took a nasty spill at stage 6 last Saturday at the Pinnacle Tour. This is Kofidis at the 20K split, so it was Team NetApp and then BMC. Kofidis is about 46 seconds off the pace.
You can see guys getting trailed off the back of that team, and back here it is the big men on this Belgian team, Omega Pharma Quickstep. These guys have a lot of horsepower, and I really expect they will have a pretty good ride. You were asking me what guys are thinking about, though, as they get ready to start. And then we got into the finish of the BMC team. So everybody has different objectives. BMC is not really here to put a guy on the podium overall. They're here to target specific stages, and one of those would be the team time trial today. Also, Philippe Gilbert wants to win stages. And so here's where we are right now.
At the 9.2K split, so Omega Pharma, no surprise, has the top time at that split. Lotto Velasol just underway. And this is not the strongest Lotto team that they probably could have sent to a Grand Tour.
Well, let's remember that these guys are required to do each of the World Tour events. And eventually, your team just gets worn out. And so you end up having to send guys that you maybe have a different objective, which is to do some developing. And that, to me, looked like it was Serge Powles, who was just coming off the back of the Omega Pharma train.
Kevin DeWert at the back there, number 162. There's Tony Martin, 161.
These guys are falling apart a little bit right now. This is not good. You see, Tony Martin had to get right back in there on Johnny Mearsman, but they're trying to close down the gap. And look at this, more than one guy in the wind. You never want that in a team time trial. You got to be right on that wheel. These guys are starting to crater.
So Tony Martin and Johnny Mearsman trying to keep it together for Omega Pharma. Team Sky yet to start. Cannondale getting onto the barge as they are now about to get off the barge and get onto the pontoon for their start for the stage 1 of the Vuelta. Team Sky, they were second at the team time trial at the Tour de France this year, 3 seconds off the pace of Orica, but no Chris Froome, no Bradley Wiggins, but they do have Rigoberto Urán.
This is a very different Team Sky squad than we're used to seeing without either a Wiggins or a Froome or a Port. And Cofidis, solid ride for them as they're inside the top 5 right now, but I think that place is going to fall before the end of the day.
Team NetApp still has the fastest time at the finish, 30.34, and Cofidis 31.54, so 1.2 back. Cannondale now on course, and the man to watch, Ivan Basso, who has won the Giro d'Italia twice.
Well, Basso and his team putting a lot of stock in his legs and his preparation for this race. For me, I would be surprised to see Basso truly fighting it out for the top step of the podium, but you just never know with a wily old veteran. I mean, he can put it together at times. Now let's have a look at his team. Notice how 3 guys are a little bit off the back, so they're more in the wind. They're having to close down this gap. That means they're having to work harder than they need to.
Team Saxo takeoff.
Evgeny Petrov, the Russian, just getting spit out the back. So now he will just get into sort of the diesel mode and make sure that he makes the time cut. See how many guys they have left. It looks like they may have the other 8 up here.
And now this is actually, this is Team Saxo takeoff. So that may have been one of the Consoleil riders that was dropped, because now you've got Saxo with Roman Kreuziger. We saw him right before the last break. He has had just a fantastic year. The 27-year-old Czech was 5th at the Tour de France, won the Amstel Gold.
Indeed, but right now, everybody's trying to dethrone these guys. This is what's known as the hot seat. An individual time trial, it's just 1 chair. But when you have a team time trial, you've got to have 9 there, as those guys are the ones everybody is taking the shot at right now.
I guess this is the extent of the climbing today, just a bit of an uphill. But you can see the guys in the back out of the saddle. And it's still the time of Omega Pharma at that early intermediate, that 9.2K, that they had the fastest time by 14 seconds over BMC and Orica Green Edge. And now the finish for Omega Pharma. So let's see, can they beat the time of Team NetApp? This could be the fastest time of the day. You've got the 5 riders, so they did not have any problems on the final finishing section. And yes, they take the lead by 19 seconds here, stage 1.
And Tony Martin there leading them through, the 2-time world champion, with the jaw wide open as he just flogs himself. Remember, they only had 5 guys for the last 7 kilometers, so that was a brutal day. That's Bjarne Riis, the director and team owner for Saxo Tinkoff. So he's talking into the guys' radios. They can hear what he says. He's giving them instructions about the course, about their pace. He's trying to encourage the different riders and just words of encouragement. And he has to know how to get the most out of his riders.
AG2R coming into the 20K split. Omega Pharma with the fastest time, and AG2R's got a bit of work to do over the last 7K. They're almost a minute down.
Not a good day for that French team, but they're not known as a team time trial squad. So they may be a little disappointed, but it's not that really surprising.
Well, music.
Tough to tell. Kreuziger now just getting on the back there. As Irizar on the left, just walking by Fabian Cancellara. Cancellara, a perfectionist on his bike. I spoke with his team, now I guess about 2.5 hours ago, and asked how good Fabian was going to be in this time trial. And they told me that he's not at his best yet. He's still coming up for the World Time Trial Championship, but he should be pretty solid in this time trial.
Well, Bjarne Riis and Saxo Tinkoff, not too bad at the 20K split, only 9 seconds.
You're on the classic trainer.
Kreuziger, Nicholas Roche,
Well, you're not really
Nicky Sortz doing a nice job. Now this is Euskaltel, and this is their swan
There's
song.
no way to tell how it wasn't
Easy to catch their orange jerseys in the peloton, but this is their final year of existence as Lamprey approaches the finish line, and they will be nowhere near the fast time laid down by Omega Pharma, just trying to get in under 31 minutes, and they just do at 30.55, so they are 40 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, but you know what this finish tells me? Michele Scarponi is on the front, right there on the right side of your screen, leading him into the finish. It tells me he really is hungry. He wants a result here. He's pushing his team at the end of this time trial, saying, we need every fraction of a second we can get, because I need that for the general classification battle.
Well, first edition, there were only 50 cycles back in 1935. The first time trial, just before Todd got into the peloton, 1941. Then Roberto Heras with the most career Vuelta wins with 4, 05, 04, 03, and 2000. AG2R across the line in the 8th spot, a minute 25 down. So that's a bit of a gap now. That will have to be made up by Carlos Bentancur, the youngster, the Colombian.
Yeah, the Colombian, as well as his teammate Pozzovivo. So it goes. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. When it comes to the team time trial, if you've got a good TTT team, it's awesome. It's like free time, and if you don't, you're totally in trouble.
So it looks like the sprint is in 3 kilometers
as
from
we've
now.
been calling it at the start here of their team time trial with their green jerseys. They are on course. The Dutch team's got Bauke Mollema, Lawrence ten Dam. Both of those riders, Tom, made some noise at this year's Tour de France. Mollema finished on 6th, 10 Dam, lost some time. At the end of it, he was 13.
Yeah, both really solid riders, but one thing we will notice here, they only have 8 guys. So Theo Bos was taken out of the start by the team this morning due to some testing, and they basically, it was ostensibly sort of tabled as a health issue. And so they start one guy short, which is not good. This is Rigoberto Urán in the middle of your screen with the long locks coming out of the back of his helmet.
Number 198 for Team Sky.
They'll probably go down
Hagen,
one more.
Again, making his return after that crash at the Tour de France. Astana will be the final team to start today. The Kazakhstan team started in 2007, and they have the reigning Giro d'Italia champion Vincenzo Nibali, the 28-year-old. Also won the Vuelta back in 2010. He actually won the Vuelta without ever winning a stage that year.
It was a good battle, though, I have to say, as day after day in the mountains, he was challenged.
Hagen, number 192 there, struggling to stay on the wheel of Dario Cataldo.
Yeah, a little bit. Wow, this is, whoa, and Hagen looks like he's about to come off. Really uncharacteristic for the Norwegian strongman, and that's it. I have a feeling they're going to lose him here right at the beginning of the race.
Well, he took a lot of time off of the bike after that crash at stage 12 of the Tour, and perhaps just simply does not have it here. He's just not ready for this type of intensity, but this is a surprise.
Yeah, it's just not right for Hagen, and that's it. I mean, he just went as deep as he could go to stay on, and he came off. That's a big loss for the team.
Saxo Tinkoff. About 30 and a half, so 30.31. They are 16 seconds back of Omega Pharma, so they lost a bit of time. They were about 9 seconds back at the 20-kilometer checkpoint.
But still a really good ride for them,
because
they've got some men who are definitely good in the general classification, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, Nicky Sorensen, they're better, the 38-year-old who won a stage at the Vuelta back in 2005, although we keep talking about a veteran or an old man in the peloton. Wait till we get to Chris Horner.
Oh, yeah. Well, and for Saxo Tinkoff, the man they'll be riding for in the general would, of course, be Roman Kreuziger, so it's a good spot for him. There's not really anybody in the Omega Pharma Quick-Step team that has that general classification potential. So these are the guys that are leading the stage at this point.
Well, Zdeněk Štibar surprised us at the Eneco Tour, but there's quite a bit of difference between a one-week stage race and a three-week Grand Tour. You can see the flags fairly stiff in the wind here at the start. And this is Radio Shack set for their start.
Fabio Cancellara will lead him off the line, closest to our camera.
Well, Chris Horner, the American, 41 years old. He is the oldest here at the Vuelta by more than 2 years over the Italian Matteo Tossato. Horner finished second at the Tour of Utah earlier this month. He's been hampered this year a bit by a knee injury, but as always, not suffering for confidence. And he would love to be in the red jersey at the end of tomorrow's stage 2. Can he do it, Tom?
Oh boy. You know, I don't know. Quite honestly, the thing I love about Chris is that he's the eternal optimist, and the thing that's really difficult to know about Chris is he's an eternal optimist, and so you don't know what he's going to do tomorrow, but he's definitely going for it. This is the team of Cannondale, Ivan Basso in here, a man who's a winner of this, not this Grand Tour, but the Giro d'Italia before, and he would like to try and do something here.
Movistar coming up here with their turn on course. This is the 2013 Vuelta a España, presented 2011 Vuelta winner. One who's a not going to ride this year, just simply not on form. And so that, to me, tells you just how strong this Movistar team is. They've got a former champ and not picked to ride.
Yeah, that's got to be tough on him. But Kobo is a guy who struggles and has struggled over the years with motivation and depression, and that really impacts his fitness level at different times.
Okay, shouldn't have left the gear.
Valverde won the Vuelta back in 2009. Was second
on the
last year.
15.
He's a guy that has been close but no cigar so many times at the World Championships. Second twice. He was third last year. What does he need to focus on here at the Vuelta to get another Grand Tour win. So many of the climbers keep talking about the climb, that penultimate stage. Many think it won't be decided until then, stage 20.
Well, the Angleroo is wicked. It is an absolutely brutal mountain. But one of the things that the critics of Valverde have spoken about over the years is that he tends to lose time. He gets eliminated in a split in a crosswind or something on days that are not really mountainous. And so he keeps his focus and he keeps his positioning good on the really mountainous days, but on the other days he lets his guard down a little bit at times. What we've seen over the last handful of years is he's getting better at that. But it's 3 weeks of racing. I mean, if you think they average probably 5.5 hours a day for 3 weeks, it's a long time to keep your focus up.
Valverde was 8th at the Tour de France despite that disaster on stage 13. Had a flat, lost 10 minutes, exactly what you were talking about.
Well, and sometimes it's been mechanical problems that have taken him out. He's been involved in crashes at the Vuelta last year. He was in the Jersey. He was taken out in a crosswind crash. You know, sometimes you just can't win. And Valverde is a guy who's got the talent. He just has to put together the right race.
No more bike rides for tonight.
Overall finishing results so far, still Omega Pharma at 30 minutes and 15 seconds. Team Saxo Tinkoff in second with a nice time, 16 seconds off the pace. And it was Team NetApp, the first team to start today, the Pro Continental team, that had the early lead and a nice performance for them as well. Team Sky now approaching the finish line, and this is an excellent performance for Team Sky. Some of their bigger names not here at the Vuelta, but these guys don't care as they are pushing for the line. They will finish just behind Omega Pharma on the last corner. 30 minutes and 21 seconds. They move into the second spot, 6 seconds down.
Really impressive, actually, to see the Sky guys putting in that type of a ride after losing Boassenhagen early in the race. And it's not really a team made up of team time trial specialists by any stretch of the imagination. That bodes really, really well for their GC hopes for Sergio Henao.
I'm sure the riders are glad they put the glass down on top of that surface.
You think?
You know, we don't want to start the race in a cyclocross type atmosphere as we are now ready for the final team to start. It is Astana. The Kazakhstan team started in 2007. Garmin Sharp now still on course. I believe this is approaching the 20K split. And they're 59 seconds down, 22:56.
Not a great start to this third Grand Tour for that squad, but they still will have plenty of opportunities as time wears on to flex their muscles in different ways.
Maxim Aglinski, the 32-year-old Kazakhstan rider, 9th at the Amateur Tour last weekend. He raced nearly